This man had intercourse with a human female last night and never expected that she would be the fiancée his younger brother had always vowed to marry, and the female with the lowest fertility in the tribe. The man, having finished his business, fell into deep regret, unaware that he was merely a tool for procreation. This was because the young girl had just transmigrated into the beast world and was forced to be bound to a fertility system. If she didn't get pregnant within 3 hours, she would die. She looked at the wolf beside her and fell into deep thought. She forcefully overpowered him, finished, and ran. The man behind her weakly opened his eyes, staring at the female who pulled up her pants and refused to acknowledge him. A cold wind blew, and he instantly woke up, his face full of shame and anger. The man was originally Lan Zhan, the wolf tribe's leader. Because his physique was too powerful, there were no females in the tribe capable of conceiving his offspring. He usually had no such thoughts. How could he be seduced by a low-level female to do such a thing now? Su Qing, on the other hand, moved lightly. Her life was the biggest thing saved. It turned out that getting pregnant wasn't as slow as she'd imagined. She put on her clothes and walked toward the cave entrance. A few females, wearing coarse linen clothes and with large, sturdy builds, were gathered together. Such a physique was a sign of good female fertility. Conversely, a thin physique like Su Qing's almost always indicated low fertility. Because of this, the original host had been mocked and bullied since childhood. Oh, isn't this Su Qing with super low fertility? She didn't try to seduce the chief and get chased out, did she? The chief won't even look at us, let alone her. Su Qing frowned, her words aimed right at the female's weak spot. So what if I'm not favored by the chief? As if you all are. The females glared fiercely at Su Qing. So what if the chief doesn't favor us? After the coming-of-age ceremony tonight, the males in the tribe will be ours to choose from. But you, with such low fertility, how could you possibly be chosen? You'll just have to go to the Mercy Cave for males to vent and then be tortured to death. These words were truly malicious and excessive for a female. Su Qing watched them coolly. As if you can all test for middle to high-level reproductive ability. Don't forget, no one has tested yet. It's too early to boast. The females exchanged glances, a hint of panic flashing in their eyes. However, their build was indeed a sign of good fertility. As for Su Qing's physique, they laughed loudly, wondering if her fertility would be so low that she wouldn't even be able to activate the test function. Lan Zhan put on his clothes and came out, hearing Su Qing's clear voice and the arguing females. His brow subtly twitched. This little female had a sharp tongue. The softness just now wasn't an illusion. Thinking back to the scene, his gaze on the little female deepened slightly. The females were astonished to see Lan Zhan come out. They instantly dropped their fierce expressions and became filled with shy coquetry. Su Qing, with her tough mouth, turned her head to look at the person. All right. He was indeed charming. A pair of deep blue eyes combined with a cool profile and firm, muscular build was genuinely attractive. If the mating hadn't just finished, she wouldn't have minded missing out on such a high-quality male. Lan Zhan froze, looking at Su Qing's unfamiliar eyes. He realized what she meant, and his expression darkened. She forgot him right after mating with him? This realization made Lan Zhan's face even blacker. The females felt the chief's chilling aura and trembled. "What is your name?" The powerful voice of the male chief sounded. Su Qing looked up, a little surprised. "We're not that familiar." Lan Zhan gritted his teeth. "Not familiar? We just mated. In the wolf tribe, that means we're bound for life." The male's aura felt off. So Su Qing instinctively took a step back, ready to defend herself. Lan Zhan smiled faintly, his deep blue eyes making Su Qing momentarily distracted. She was annoyed at being mesmerized by his good looks. Suddenly, her waist tightened, and she was picked up in a bridal carry. "Don't worry, we'll get familiar soon." A familiar male scent enveloped her. Su Qing realized he was the male she had taken advantage of. The group of females were stunned. The chief, who never approached any female, was forcefully holding the female with the lowest fertility and entering the cave. The atmosphere confirmed everything. Their faces burned, and their eyes were filled with thick, undissolvable jealousy. Why could Su Qing, a low-fertility female, win the favor of the tribe's strongest male? The extreme jealousy twisted the females' faces, especially Zhuo Yang, who seemingly had the highest fertility. The news of Su Qing and Lan Zhan quickly spread throughout the tribe. Su Qing was carried back by Lan Zhan and roughly thrown onto the stone bed covered with beast hides. Su Qing's back stung from the fall. She looked up and glared at the perpetrator. "What do you want?" Lanzan looked at the little female in front of him, his Adam's apple bobbing. "I'll teach you." Before Suqing could react, she felt a chill, and her coarse clothes were torn to shreds. Her face was full of black lines. "I didn't damage your clothes." The male's deep voice sounded in Suqing's ear. "Since you are my female, I can afford to get you new clothes." Suqing felt his firm muscles. Since she couldn't resist, she simply closed her eyes and enjoyed it. As expected of a high-level male, he had her legs and arms weak not long after waking up. She had to take 2 restoration pills just to barely keep herself steady. Where Suqing couldn't see, Lanzhan's eyes grew brighter and brighter. It was already difficult for their high-level males to have offspring, and low-level females could barely withstand them. That's why he never planned on looking for a female. Not only would she be unable to bear him children, but she might also be tortured to death by him. He hadn't expected this little female to be so resilient and durable. He was very satisfied. Suqing woke up at daybreak, her groggy eyes still not adjusted to the unfamiliar environment. The system's task: obtain food for her sustenance. Suqing felt a soul-stirring hunger. She covered her lower abdomen. "What is it? Are you hungry?" Lanzhan stared at Suqing. He had always been cold and reserved, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to secure the chief's position. However, his state of frenzied transformation kept his emotions on the verge of losing control, making him lose his composure, but he noticed that every time he mated with the little female, his frenzied state lessened and his emotions stabilized. The reason he didn't want to let go of the little female now had nothing to do with the frenzied transformation. It stemmed more from the continuous affection in his heart. Naturally, he was willing to give her the best. Suqing was so hungry she was about to faint. She hadn't eaten a thing since she ran away yesterday. Lanzhan quickly got up, his expression solemn. It is a male's duty to feed his female. Suqing saw Lanzhan's frown and the displeasure in his eyes. She didn't say much. Since she was carrying his baby, it was reasonable for him to feed her. Suqing thought about being kept busy by Lanzhan all night and missing the coming-of-age ceremony. She wondered how the other females were. Her chest ached with hunger. She searched the cave and found some wild fruits to temporarily ease her hunger. As soon as she went out, the beastman's gazes changed. Complex, jealous, admiring. And curious glances flashed across her. Suqing, used to being a lone wolf in the apocalypse, felt uncomfortable being watched. She avoided the beastmen and planned to find food. But a substantial gaze was fixed on her. Suqing quickly turned her head and met a pair of familiar, slightly red eyes filled with grievance. This was Lanji, Lanzhan's younger brother, the childhood sweetheart who had always sacrificed for the original host and resolutely protected her. Suqing's eyebrow twitched slightly. "I'm done for." Lanji looked at the familiar figure, his heart heavy. Yesterday, he had put on his best beast hide, dressed neatly, and went to the coming-of-age ceremony for Suqing. He had made up his mind that even if Suqing had no fertility, he would still take care of her. He waited eagerly, but Suqing never showed up. He thought Suqing had run off again and searched anxiously throughout the tribe, only to hear the rumors about Suqing and his older brother. Suqing didn't choose him. She chose his brother, even though his brother had clearly looked down on Suqing before and repeatedly advised him to stay away from her so she wouldn't drag him down. But now, his brother and Suqing were together. His cave was right next to his brother's, and he had spent the night listening to their intimacy, unable to sleep. He felt wronged, angry, and deeply unwilling. Why? Why did you choose my brother? Suqing was touched by Lanji's feelings for the original host, but the system firmly rejected it. Our fertility system only gives birth to powerful offspring. Suqing sighed. "I'm sorry." Lanji stumbled, his heart sinking into an abyss. Was she despising him for his low ability to provide for her? Lanji's heart ached. He looked deeply at her. "As long as you're living well." Lanji put down the food in his hand and turned to leave. Suqing looked at the bloody raw meat and the wounds on Lanji's body. Her heart conflicted. Lanji was the lowest rank, yellow tier. Hunting for food was extremely difficult for him. Thinking about how good he was to the original host, she quickly called out to stop him. "Are you hurt?" Lanji's eyes dimmed, and he pressed his lips together, remaining silent. "I'll help you bandage it." Suqing skillfully stitched up the wound. Then she went to the outskirts of the green swamp forest to look for suitable herbs. The herbs had been purified over the years and looked completely different, but she finally relied on taste, scent, and the system to identify them. Then she crushed the large amount of anti-inflammatory herbs and applied them to Lanji's wound. The pain eased considerably. Lanji watched Suqing busy herself for him, a wave of happiness washing over his heart, followed by an unspeakable sadness. She is Big Brother's female. She had Big Brother. Such an excellent male. How could she still look at him? He felt an inexplicable irritation. Grumble, grumble. Suqing's stomach loudly growled. She awkwardly covered her stomach. Lanji piled the raw meat in front of Suqing. Eat quickly. You won't be hungry anymore. Suqing declined. The original host already owed Lanji a lot, so she couldn't take his things no matter how hungry she was. I'm leaving, Lanji said, putting down the meat and quickly running away. Suqing sighed, staring at the pile of raw meat and swallowing. But since she was human at heart, she still preferred cooked food. She wanted to go out and borrow a fire source. As soon as she stepped out, everyone avoided her, as if she had the plague. She was just too hungry right now. If she wasn't, she could make a fire by drilling wood herself. Suqing wouldn't press people for favors. She ate some fruits to fill her stomach, and some herbs to replenish her strength. At noon, she dug up the medicinal herbs and spread them out in the yard to dry. Lan Zan didn't return until dusk. The muscular male carried 2 deer on his shoulders and had several pheasants hanging from his waist. Suqing's eyes lit up. Food is here! Are you hungry? Lan Zhan's cold gaze softened a little when it met Suqing's. Suqing's eyes were only on the food, and she happily replied with a hum. Lan Zhan put down the prey. Suqing immediately urged him to light a fire. Suqing cleaned the meat and began to roast it. Where did you get the meat? Lanji brought it. Lan Zhan naturally knew about the history between the little female and his younger brother. He felt a little uncomfortable after hearing that. I can provide for you. Lanji's rank is too low. Survival is difficult for him. The implicit meaning was that she didn't need food from other males. Suqing nodded indifferently. I know you're very strong. These words pleased Lan Zhan. He was in a great mood and reached out to touch Suqing's head. Suqing took out the salt and found the grains were extremely coarse. This kind of salt had a bad taste with a fibrous bitterness, but it was already the best salt in the tribe. After this wave of hunger passed, she decided to refine the salt to make it taste much better. The salt was sprinkled on the meat, along with some wild spices she had found earlier. The beastmen passing by the chief's courtyard smelled the aroma wafting out, and their mouths watered uncontrollably. They had never eaten meat that smelled so good in their lives. A burst of fragrance wafted out. Lan Zhan paused his movements of processing the prey. His deep blue eyes moved, and he looked at Suqing. The little female was squatting by the fire, her cheeks flushed with a rosy glow. She looked even more appetizing than the sizzling, oily roast meat. He swallowed hard, his movements becoming even more agile. Come and eat, Suqing said with a smile. Lan Zhan had been waiting for a long time. Upon hearing the call, he eagerly walked forward. Let's see how it tastes. Lan Zhan lowered his head, meeting Suqing's bright eyes. He just twitched a bit, then unapologetically took a large bite of the roast meat in the little female's hand. Suqing looked at the hole Lan Zhan had bitten out and sighed in admiration. As expected of a beastman, males eat fiercely. The roasted meat was full of oil and moisture, and the meat and spices were perfectly blended. Not only did the flavor change, but even the typically dry, tough meat had become tenderized slightly. This roasting skill was the best he had ever encountered. Lan Zhan's gaze at the little female changed. You are more capable than I thought. Lan Zhan's bright eyes made Suqing feel a little embarrassed. The one in front of him is a tool person, so she naturally had to be nice to him. Otherwise, who would take care of her life during this pregnancy? It's good that you like it. She used a small knife to cut the roast meat and ate it slowly and methodically. Lan Zhan looked at Suqing's reddened face. The little female's small bites were a pleasing sight, making his own eating seem a bit rough. He unconsciously chewed much more slowly. After Suqing finished processing the meat, she dried all of it into jerky for easy storage and portability. Lan Zhan stared at the thin little female in front of him, his eyes growing brighter. The little female had good skills. He was very satisfied. Suqing was pregnant now, feeling listless. She kept urging Lan Zhan to work. Lan Zhan worked tirelessly. In the male's view, they should solve any problem for the female. Females were inherently meant to enjoy the care of the male. Females were so precious and delicate, and a little female like this, who could make food so delicious, was a rare find. Lan Zhan finished processing the meat and entered the cave, seeing the little female half asleep. Certain images flashed through his mind. He unconsciously swallowed, then pounced on her. His deep blue pupils stared at her, his Adam's apple bobbing. Suqing quickly asked the system, "Can I still mate while pregnant?" The system replied, "No problem. The host's physique is special and won't be affected." Lan Zhan was less urgent than last time, but his stamina was still astonishing. Suqing took another restoration pill midway. Since she became pregnant, the system had become a doting parent, and the pills didn't cost any points, so Suqing used them freely. Lan Zhan looked at the refreshed Suqing, his eyes shining brightly. Not many females could withstand his high-level male stamina, and Suqing continued to surprise him. They continued until daylight. With ample food for the next few days, Lan Zhan didn't leave the wolf den. Suqing looked at the slightly shaking stone bed and twitched her lips. She kicked Lan Zhan. "Aren't you afraid of grinding an iron rod into a needle? I'm hungry. Go get some food." Lan Zhan was usually cold, but he was exceptionally gentle and obedient towards Suqing. Just as he left the wolf den, someone arrived in the yard. Suqing heard a beastman mention her name. She got dressed and went out to see. The visitor was a middle-aged woman, leaning on a cane and dressed in animal skins. This was the great priestess of the wolf tribe. The great priestess heard the movement, turned, and met Suqing's gaze, a hint of displeasure flashing in her eyes. "Chief, he avoided the coming-of-age ceremony and didn't test his fertility. This is against tribal rules. Please ask the female to go for the test." Suqing raised an eyebrow, so that's what this is about. She turned to look at Lan Zhan to see his reaction. Lan Zhan nodded. He felt the test was necessary. It was the procedure. But regardless of the result, he would protect her. As for having a child, his own ability made it difficult, and he didn't hold out much hope. "Fine, I'll go with you." She was already pregnant, and her life was temporarily safe. Even if she was sent to the Mercy Cave, she could protect herself. The great priestess Mu Yun openly scrutinized Suqing. Previously, the chief was on the verge of a complete frenzied transformation. Yet in the past few days, he not only didn't go into a frenzy, but also maintained his human form, and his temperament was much calmer. Could this be related to Suqing? How could a female like Suqing, who didn't even have fertility, be of any help to the chief? It must be the chief's special physique. A large group of people came, and then walked majestically toward the testing platform. Suqing stepped onto the sacrificial platform. Lan Zhan pulled her back. "It's okay if you don't have reproductive ability. I can provide for you." Suqing raised an eyebrow. "Never say never, don't worry." Lan Zhan looked at the confident little female with a complex gaze and watched her step onto the testing platform. The mocking voices of the beastmen below could be heard. "Suqing clearly has no fertility. Why even test? It's a waste of time. Hurry up and send her to the Mercy Cave. She's got some looks. I can't wait." "Suqing, this lowest-ranked female is not worth wasting food on." Lan Zhan coldly swept his gaze over the speaker. The male who spoke maliciously felt a chill down his spine and immediately shut up. On the platform, a purple, five-pointed star-shaped stone was placed. "Please test," the great priestess said coldly. Below the stage, the females who intensely disliked Suqing excitedly watched Suqing reach out and place her hand on the stone. Zhuoyang stared intently at the stone. She had high fertility and was courted by countless males, but Lan Zhan had never looked at her. As long as Suqing had no fertility, she would be sent to the Mercy Cave. The great priestess would surely pair Lan Zhan with her, Zhuoyang. Lan Zhan's female could only be her, Zhuoyang. Bang! The testing magnet stone shattered into several pieces. The great priestess's eyes widened. The crowd below gasped in surprise. "Why did it break? Is the stone broken?" The crowd started to discuss. The great priestess thought this was possible. She took out several more stones one after another, and after testing, they all similarly shattered into pieces. The great priestess looked at the broken stones, stared at Suqing, her eyes complex. "You have no fertility," the great priestess concluded, simply and crudely. Suqing sneered. "Based on what do you think I have no ability? Perhaps my rank is so high that this broken stone can't measure it." The great priestess was speechless. The people below who were defaming Suqing were also stunned. Things were not going in the direction they expected. They had never seen a situation where the testing magnet stones shattered consecutively. Suqing looked at the blue stone nearby, the Talent Divine Stone. "Can I test with that?" The Great Priestess followed Suqing's gaze, frowning, her tone dismissive. "Females don't have talent." Several females who were close to Zhuo Yang eagerly spoke up. "Great Priestess, the shattering of the magnet stone might be due to it reaching its limit. There wasn't even a single glimmer of light just now. She simply has no fertility. Hurry and drive her to the Mercy Cave." Suqing has a thick skin. She thought if she hooked up with the chief, she would be safe and sound. The chief should be with Zhuo Yang. What if Zhuo Yang can really bear the chief's offspring? Though they said this, everyone knew that even Zhuo Yang, with her high-level fertility, was not enough to bear Landron's offspring. High-tier males were almost destined to be childless, and a male who reached the divine beast tier would absolutely not be able to leave behind any offspring. However, it seemed that Suqing being sent to the Mercy Cave was a foregone conclusion. "Great Priestess, I am willing to take care of Suqing." "Don't send her to the Mercy Cave," a clear and anxious voice rang out. Suqing turned her head and met Lanji's gentle gaze. "Great Priestess, everyone knows that Suqing is my female. She doesn't need to go to the Mercy Cave." Lanjan also could not sit still. He rose and walked to Suqing's side, tightly wrapping his arm around her waist. Suqing struggled a bit. "Why is this tool person fighting over me?" But with the crisis solved, she was happy to be free. The females below the stage looked at them. The Great Chief and the Chief's younger brother were protecting a female with no reproductive ability. Extreme envy twisted their hearts. "Chief, she is utterly unworthy of you. The Supreme Chief should be matched with a high-level fertile female." The Great Priestess spoke with rare difficulty. Lanzan gave her a faint look. "No female in the tribe is capable of conceiving my offspring." As soon as Lanzan spoke, the beastmen fell silent. Lanzan's rank was too high, and being childless was a predetermined fate in the tribe, which made Lanzan feel lost. But he truly liked this little female, and the two were very compatible in a certain way. That was enough for him. Lanji stared deeply at Suqing, who was being led back to the cave by Lanzan. The jealousy in his heart grew wildly like weeds. Lanzan had been very silent since returning. Suqing thought it was her fertility status that made him feel uncomfortable. "Don't worry, just take care of me for 2 more months, and I won't trouble you anymore." Once she gave birth, got the points and rewards, this tool person could also be dismissed. Lanzhan's eyes flickered. He looked up at Suqing, a hint of hurt in his eyes. "You don't want me to be your mate?" Suqing jumped. How could she let him be her mate? Could he just be a tool person obediently? So after Suqing compensated Lanzhan in some ways, his mood came and went quickly. Lanzhan's life was quite comfortable. He went hunting during the day and came back in the afternoon to hold the sweet, soft little female. Suqing sent the prepared medicine to Lanji and thanked him for stepping forward on the day of the test. At the same time, she felt she needed to make things clear. Lanji looked at Suqing, his light blue eyes gazing at her affectionately, his tone humble and eyes yearning. "Can I stay by your side? I know there's no custom in the tribe for 2 brothers to share 1 female, but I cannot be your mate." Suqing could only sigh. Lanji liked the original host, not her. If she accepted him, she would feel awkward, and besides, the system wasn't willing. The system was now so powerful that it only wanted the best. She shook her head. "Work hard to raise your rank. You will meet a female better than me in the future. I'm not worth wasting your time on." After all, her goal was to complete 100 million points and end the apocalypse. Males were only meant to be tools in her eyes. A heartless person like her truly didn't deserve Lanji's deep affection. In his eyes, was only destined to be a tool. Someone as heartless as he truly didn't deserve Lanji's deep affection. Suqing left those words behind. Lanji stared at his retreating back for a long time, then forlornly carried the medicinal herbs into the wolf den. When Lanzhan returned from hunting, he saw that the medicinal herbs Suqing had been drying were gone and asked curiously. When he learned they had been given to Lanji, his brows furrowed slightly. Thinking of what had happened at the testing platform that day, and how Lanji had protected Suqing, he felt a little sour, but he also knew in his heart that he was the one who came later, and that Lanji was his brother. He didn't want the situation to escalate to an irreconcilable point. "You should interact less with Lanji from now on. You are with me now. It's not good for your reputation or his to be seen together. Su Qing nodded. Lanjan was satisfied. Su Qing's eyes lit up when he saw the wild chicken Lanjan brought back. Chicken stew with mushrooms is a delicacy. He pulled Lanjan into the woods and found some fungi. Lanjan thought they were poisonous and wouldn't let Su Qing take them back. How could Su Qing agree? Eating is the most important thing in the world. Anyone who stopped him from eating good food deserved to die. The little female's fierce demeanor amused Lanjan. Well, no one will die anyway. They'll just suffer a bit, which will teach him a lesson. Only after gathering 2 full baskets did Su Qing reluctantly start heading back. Back at the cave, he immediately cooked a pot of wild chicken and mushrooms. Su Qing sprinkled in the fine salt he had made. The flavor was fresh and savory, without any bitterness, making Su Qing incredibly happy as he ate. Lanzan had originally intended to stop him, but after taking a sip of the soup, his tail almost wagged with delight. The flavor was even better than roasted meat. Because it was cooked long enough, the flavors of the wild chicken and mushrooms were perfectly blended. The mushrooms were delicious, and the chicken was fragrant. He also noticed the fine salt. His eyes lit up. This salt cost 50 caddies of meat per jar at the tribe's trade day. Can you teach the males of the tribe how to make this salt? Su Qing thought about how nasty the tribe's beastmen had been to the former host and to him. Wasn't it all because the former host's father died and because of his low fertility? He didn't want to teach them at all. Besides, he was pregnant and didn't have much energy. Moreover, they might not even value what I teach them. He dismissed the thought. Lan Zhan focused on eating the chicken stew with mushrooms, almost licking the stone pot clean. The little female, full and satisfied, had a rosy complexion, which made Lan Zhan's Adam's apple bob. Can I have something else to eat? Su Qing saw the look in his deep eyes and knew what he was thinking. He raised a hand and flicked him. What are you thinking about in broad daylight? Put those inappropriate thoughts away. Lan Zhan looked at Su Qing aggrievedly. Su Qing's scalp tingled from the big puppy look in his eyes. He turned his head away, his voice softening slightly. At night, you can do whatever you want. Lan Zhan's eyes lit up, and he almost transformed into his beast form and wagged his tail. Su Qing turned his gaze away in distaste. One bowl of chicken soup wasn't enough. He was still starving. Lan Zhan had no choice but to take out the jade celestial grass for him. This was a rare, powerful herb that usually needed to be taken with other medicines, but Su Qing just chewed it up and swallowed it. Lan Zhan, anxious, cupped Su Qing's face and told him to spit it out. Su Qing, however, touched his belly with satisfaction, feeling lazy all over. He hadn't felt this full in a long time. Full and satisfied, night fell. Lan Zhan eagerly carried Su Qing into the wolf den. After being full, it was time to exercise. In the middle of the night, Su Qing became hungry again. So hungry that her stomach was pressed against her back. She kicked Lan Zhan away. I'm hungry! Go get food! Lan Zhan raised a pair of deep blue eyes, slightly bewildered. Su Qing's face flushed. I said I'm hungry in my stomach. Lan Zhan raised an eyebrow and smiled, quickly getting up to find food. The commotion lasted until daybreak, before Su Qing finally closed her eyes. Lan Zhan knew this little female had a huge appetite, so he immediately left the cave to make chicken and mushroom stew. As he left the cave, he saw Lan Ji standing there, pale-faced and with dark circles under his eyes. Lan Zhan patted his shoulder. What are you doing standing around my cave entrance, you stinker? Lan Ji looked distressed and didn't speak. Lan Zhan went about his business. Just as he lit the fire, he heard Lan Ji speak softly. In the early years, the tribe had 2 brothers marry 1 female. I want to be Su Qing's mate too. I regret not confessing to her. Otherwise, Su Qing would have been mine already. Lan Zhan's movements paused. Every day he spent with Su Qing, the thought of his own brother liking her so much made him feel conflicted. Yet he was clearly aware of his struggle while still sinking into the relationship. When he thought that Su Qing would also cry in his brother's arms and would passively accept all of his brother's love, he felt a tearing pain in his heart. He spoke with difficulty. Brother can agree to anything, except sharing Su Qing. Lan Ji's eyes reddened. He returned to the cave forlornly, his heart filled with overwhelming jealousy and regret. Su Qing probably likes strong males. His light blue eyes slowly turned red. So if he becomes strong, can he get Su Qing? Can he share Su Qing with his brother? At this moment, Su Qing happily told Lan Zhan, I'm pregnant. The baby needs food. Lan Zhan was stunned. He thought it must be a joke. He's a high-tier beast man. Su Qing has no fertility. It's already difficult for her to conceive, let alone his cub. His racing heart settled back down. Just say you want to eat. Lying is not good. Su Qing knew Lan Zhan didn't believe her and didn't waste any more words. When the time comes, everything will be clear. Lan Zhan ran out to get food. Su Qing spent points to eat 5 pregnancy pills before the feeling of hunger gradually subsided. However, this only relieved the hunger and didn't provide any nutrition. To give birth to a higher-ranked wolf cub, she decided to go out. She circled the woods a few times and discovered a ginseng root. She eagerly rushed over, dug it out with effort, and headed back. Just then, she heard a female's voice behind her. "Oh, the chief's favorite has started eating grass. Who would like a female with no fertility? I think she'll be sent to the female cave soon." Lan Zhan, the chief of the wolf tribe, is handsome and powerful, yet he was taken by Su Qing, this useless female. Isn't that a slap in the face to all the females in the tribe? Su Qing tucked the ginseng into her arms. "What I eat is none of your business. And who says I have no fertility? I'm telling you, I'm pregnant. Soon, the chief of the wolf tribe will have an heir." Zhuo Yang laughed as if she had heard a joke. "I think you've gone mad. Who in the wolf tribe doesn't know the chief is high tier? Even I can't conceive his offspring. You must be dreaming. Zhu Yang just took a maid after coming of age and still isn't pregnant. You're probably going crazy from wishing to be pregnant." Su Qing didn't bother arguing. Actions speak louder than words. Once her belly gets big, these people won't be able to say anything. Soon, Su Qing's crazy statements spread throughout the wolf tribe. Everyone thought she was insane. Who is Lan Zhan? Is he someone just any female can bear a child for? Pure delusion. Lan Zhan also heard the rumors. He held Su Qing that evening and comforted her. "Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I'm prepared to be childless." Su Qing responded vaguely. If he hadn't seen the disappointment in Lan Zhan's eyes when he mentioned an heir, he almost would have believed him. Days passed. Su Qing's appetite soared. She ate and ate non-stop all day long. Lan Zhan hunted and brought back food tirelessly. However, the slender little female didn't gain weight. Instead, her belly got bigger. Lan Zhan stared at Su Qing's belly, his expression complicated. "Are you really pregnant?" Su Qing lightly patted her round stomach. "Why would I lie to you?" Lan Zhan was silent for a long time, his eyelids twitching. He turned and walked out. Su Qing just thought the news was too explosive for Lan Zhan to digest right away and didn't dwell on it. Lan Zhan, meanwhile, had the image of the little female's swollen belly in his mind. He didn't feel any hint of joy, only a crushing bitterness. His high-tier talent made it impossible for Su Qing to conceive his offspring. So, the child in Su Qing's belly belongs to another beast man. Who could this person be? He was out of his mind during his frenzy. Was that Su Qing's first time? Lanji's image flashed through his mind, thinking of how close they once were. The male was naturally submissive, and Su Qing was obedient. He closed his eyes in agony. His labored breathing revealed the turmoil in his heart. His fists clenched, then slowly released. He loves the little female. So what if she's carrying Lanji's child? Anyway, it's difficult for him to have an heir in this lifetime. He'll just raise it as his own. He'll raise it from childhood. Besides, it's his brother's child. Rounding up, it's his own. Once Lan Zhan figured this out, his mind was at ease. However, the extreme fluctuation of his emotions still showed signs of the frenzy. His hand began to transform into a beast paw. His mind quickly focused, and he returned to his human form. His blue eyes widened slightly. The frenzy was irreversible, and every male would eventually turn into a savage beast. It was only delayed if one controlled their emotions well. No beast could control the frenzy at will, yet he had done it. He certainly wasn't arrogant enough to believe he was special. Fragmented memories of his previous frenzy flashed through his mind. When Su Qing touched him, he reverted to human form. After their first mating, he regained his sanity. Every subsequent mating smoothed his violent emotions caused by the frenzy. Moreover, his rank seemed to be rising. Before, he was only at the mid-tier level, but now he had reached the high-tier peak. Reaching the alpha rank was only a matter of time. The surprise was more stimulating than becoming a surrogate father. Lan Zhan composed himself and returned. He looked at Su Qing's swollen belly, reached out, and gently touched it. His tone was tender. "He is doing well." Su Qing looked down at her belly. Initially, she had been somewhat resistant to bearing a wolf cub, but feeling a small life kicking her stomach gave her a strange, moving sensation. Moreover, the system kept hyping her up. She was excited. Even if she laid an egg, she could face it. Seeing Su Qing's lowered head, Lanzan thought she was afraid that he had figured out the child was Lan Ji's. He couldn't bear it. No matter what the child is like, I will love him. Su Qing's mouth twitched. It's your child. Of course you'll love him. After all, you're not a human. It's good that you love him, Su Qing said dismissively. However, she was getting hungrier and hungrier, feeling hungry every half hour. She washed and ate the collected ginseng raw. She found that the persistent hunger she'd felt throughout her pregnancy had finally disappeared. Lan Zan's eyes softened, watching Su Qing's cheeks puff out. A smile inadvertently curved his lips. He looked at Su Qing's stomach, his gaze complex yet tender. Lan Ji's child. From now on, he will be his child. The rabbit beastman's pregnancy only lasted 1 month. A few days later, Su Qing's belly was already very large. As she was walking around the tribe looking for herbs with her big belly, she saw a few female beastmen gathered together. Zhuo Yang had just gotten pregnant, and a few females and their mates were surrounding her and flattering her. Zhuo Yang is capable! It's only been a few days, and she's already pregnant. Your fertility is so good. The chief must regret his choice now. Zhu Yang smiled faintly. If the chief regrets it, he can leave Su Qing and come find me. They aren't married after all. Just as she finished speaking, she saw Su Qing with her large belly walk past them. The words of mockery that had reached her lips were swallowed back down. The faces of the surrounding beastmen were filled with shock. Su Qing, the female with low fertility, how is she pregnant? And she looks farther along than Zhuo Yang. She must have eaten too much, quote, the chief hunts every day for her. She never ate such good food when she was with Lan Ji, so she must be stuffing herself. The female spoke sarcastically, all believing Su Qing was just greedy. Not a single one suspected she was pregnant. Su Qing's low fertility was confirmed by the great priestess herself. Moreover, she's been with the chief lately, and the high-tier chief can't possibly have offspring. Su Qing glanced disdainfully at the group of females. Not only are they blind, but they're also brainless. Whose obesity only makes their stomach swell without affecting other areas. Su Qing, what's with that look? Zhuo Yang is pregnant now. I think you should go beg her to teach you some tricks. I wouldn't have known she was pregnant. Su Qing sneered. My stomach is even bigger than hers. If anyone needs to be taught, she should come to me. A good dog doesn't block the way. Get out of the way. The females turned livid from Su Qing's harsh words. They are noble wolves, not lowly dogs. Zhuo Yang stepped forward, deliberately highlighting her less obvious pregnant belly, a look of self-importance on her face. It's certainly different when you have the chief backing you up, so sharp-tongued. You're not pregnant, but you're pretending to be, and you even said you got pregnant earlier than me. Haven't you fooled yourself enough? Don't forget, the chief's talent is high tier. Even I can't conceive his child. It's even more impossible for a female like you, whose fertility couldn't even be measured, to be pregnant. Zhuo Yang spoke resonantly. The females, egged on by her, chimed in. A female who falsely claims pregnancy and behaves badly should be sent to the female cave. The eyes of the angry females immediately lit up. If Su Qing was sent to the female cave and Zhu Yang was pregnant, they would lose 2 major competitors, greatly increasing their chances of gaining the chief's favor. The females were excited and eagerly reached out to tear at Su Qing. Su Qing's cold gaze swept over Zhuo Yang. Meeting her smug eyes, he sneered. He lifted his foot and swept it forcefully, kicking away the female who tried to attack him. The female flew out, her eyes wide with terror. Su Qing looks weaker than them, so why is she so strong? Su Qing didn't give them a chance to react. He covered his stomach and slowly walked toward them, stepping on the back of one female's hand. This female had tried to strike him maliciously. Did she think he was a fool? Su Qing, stop! It hurts! Su Qing's pale face was filled with a gentle smile, but the words he spoke were commanding. I am indeed pregnant, but you insist I'm faking it. Since you're so eager to deal with me, let's go see the great priestess. Let her examine me and see if I'm pregnant or not. Zhuo Yang's eyes flickered. Before she could speak, the female lying on the ground struggled to climb up. The great priestess is the most impartial. You'll regret it when you're thrown into the female cave. Falsely claiming pregnancy and being thrown into the female cave is even more shameful than being thrown there for low fertility. Su Qing's good days are over. Zhuo Yang, as if afraid Su Qing would back out, immediately dragged Su Qing to the Great Priestess's cave. The beastmen in the tribe had already heard the rumors. They'd previously heard Su Qing was crazy and claiming to be pregnant. Now he was completely mad, faking a big belly and daring to go see the Great Priestess to verify it. Insane. He's absolutely insane. Su Qing also saw the mocking looks, but he didn't care. Lan Ji returned with his prey. Seeing Su Qing surrounded and hearing the beastmen's comments, his gaze fell on Su Qing's belly. It was slightly bulging. She's pregnant. His heart was filled with complicated and inexplicable feelings, bitterness and excitement. Bitterness that the child wasn't his, and excitement that his brother could finally have an heir. He refused to think of anything else. He wanted to follow, but seeing Su Qing's self-assured demeanor, as if he didn't need him, made him feel both happy and disappointed. Su Qing was no longer the little female who depended on him to survive. However, simply looking at the current Su Qing made his blood run hot. The impulse to possess her entirely welled up inside him. The Great Priestess frowned at the noisy beastmen. Then she heard Zhuo Yang speak. "Great Priestess, Su Qing still won't give up after we exposed her fake pregnancy. She wants you to examine her to confirm the truth, so she can be sent to the female cave." The Great Priestess finally noticed the petite Su Qing among the crowd. Her gaze landed on his belly, filled with surprise. Pregnant? How could Su Qing be pregnant? The stone that day had shattered. There was no light. Su Qing simply had no fertility. It was impossible for her to be wrong. Su Qing confidently stepped forward. "Great Priestess, I trouble you." The Great Priestess suppressed the doubts in her heart and led them into the cave. Time ticked by. The beastmen at the entrance gradually grew excited. "Haha, Su Qing's exposed now. Serves him right for trying to punch above his weight. Even with the chief supporting him, he still seeks death by telling such a huge lie." Discussions raged at the entrance. Su Qing, with her big belly, looked at the Great Priestess. "I'm pregnant." The Great Priestess's expression was complex. Females were already rare, and pregnant females were even more precious. But this was Su Qing, the one she had never favored. A hint of sarcasm flickered across Su Qing's face. Her pregnancy was not only a slap in the face to the females, but also to the Great Priestess. She had sworn Su Qing had no fertility and wanted to drag her to the female cave. If it hadn't been for Lan Zhan, the consequences were unimaginable. The Great Priestess's scalp tingled under Su Qing's gaze, and her cheeks burned with embarrassment. She had been the one who confidently declared Su Qing had no fertility. In all her years as Great Priestess, she had never been wrong. Not only had she misjudged Su Qing, but she was pregnant so quickly. Su Qing stepped out of the cave entrance. The moment she emerged, the chattering abruptly stopped. Before she could speak, the females who followed Zhuo Yang excitedly came forward to grab her. "Quick, quick! Take her to the female cave! Let's see how she can still stand next to the chief now." But the Great Priestess announced with a somber, serious face, "She is pregnant. She will give birth in a few days. If I find anyone harming her, don't blame me for being ruthless." The clamor ceased abruptly. The females were stunned. The accompanying males also were shocked. Su Qing is pregnant? How could her slender waist be pregnant? Everyone's eyes turned to the large and robust Zhuo Yang, examining her critically. Zhu Yang is the female with the highest fertility rank in the tribe. She took a mate after coming of age and has been with the chief longer than Su Qing. Yet her pregnancy seems shorter than Su Qing's. This implied that Su Qing's fertility was actually higher than Zhuo Yang's. That's impossible! Zhuo Yang felt the scrutiny of the beastmen, and her fists clenched. How can a female with low fertility be compared to her? Are these beastmen blind? Wait, the chief couldn't possibly let Su Qing conceive his offspring. The child in her belly is not the chief's. Zhuo Yang suddenly realized, her eyes shining as she stared at Su Qing. Her words stirred up 1,000 waves. The beastmen, immersed in shock, were jolted back to reality by Zhuo Yang's words. She must be afraid of being disliked by the chief for not being able to conceive, so she found another male. The child is not the chief's. The chief is a high-tier beastman. Let alone Su Qing, even Zhuo Yang couldn't conceive his child. The beastmen started discussing. The Great Priestess frowned deeply. She couldn't control other beastmen, but the chief was different. If the bloodline was mixed, the harm to the White Wolf tribe would be unimaginable. Whose child is in your belly? The Great Priestess believed Zhuo Yang's words and questioned Su Qing loudly. Su Qing sneered. Don't use your filthy minds to think. I know better than anyone that the child is Lan Zhan's. Great priestess, don't be deceived by her. She has no fertility. How can she conceive the chief's child? Zhuo Yang guided public opinion loudly. The other females echoed her. Suqing is shameless. The chief feeds her and provides for her, yet she is pregnant with another male's child. The child must be Lan Ji's. The two of them were close, and Lan Ji was obsessed with her before. The tribe does not allow brothers to share a mate. Suqing is disgusting. Suqing listened to the rampant discussions, fury suppressed in her eyes. I'll say it one last time. I only have Lan Zhan as a mate. The females and the onlookers were blinded by anger and refused to believe her. He is their great chief. How could Suqing deliberately mix his bloodline? And with Lan Ji, which would lead to the destruction of the Brotherhood? So many tribes strictly forbid brothers sharing a mate. Suqing is utterly shameless. Everyone angrily began to verbally attack her. Some excited beastmen even wanted to get physical. A stone flew toward her. Suqing wanted to dodge, but the great priestess stubbornly blocked her, preventing her from moving an inch. Suqing should be punished for violating the tribe's rules. Suqing raised her hand to strike. Suddenly, her waist tightened. She was lifted and flipped around. The familiar, cool scent clearly entered her nostrils. Lan Zhan had arrived! Lan Zhan looked at the little female in his arms. Seeing that she was unharmed, his racing heart calmed down. He shielded the female in his embrace, the protective stance self-evident. The beastmen calmed down. The females were intensely jealous, wishing they could take her place. That's their chief! How does Suqing, a wandering beastman, deserve his protection? The child in Suqing's belly is mine. You don't need to doubt it. Lan Zhan's resonant words made the expressions of the females and beastmen soften slightly, but they still felt it was impossible. Their eyes towards Suqing were full of malice. The great priestess was very displeased to see Lan Zhan protecting Suqing. Disperse! Wait a moment, great priestess, Suqing said. I am truly pregnant, and they falsely accused me and even wanted to drag me to the female cave. A female with my high fertility going to the female cave would be a waste of the tribe's resources. Their actions have caused a very negative impact on the tribe and on me. Shouldn't they apologize to me? Zhuo Yang and the females sneered. Before they could speak, the great priestess said, Why haven't you apologized to Suqing? And each of you give Suqing a hind leg portion. The few were unwilling, but they had to obey the great priestess. However arrogant they had been moments ago, they were just as meek when apologizing to Suqing. We're sorry, Suqing. We shouldn't have wrongly accused you. As for whether your child is the chief's, we'll know when it's born. We shouldn't have said such things now. Suqing ignored their sarcasm and happily accepted the meat they gave her, a total of 7 or 8 portions. She was delighted. Immediately after, the great priestess told Suqing and Lan Zhan to enter the cave. Her eyes swept over Suqing's face. Tell me honestly, is the child Lan Zhan's? Suqing was firm. I'll say it one last time. The child is Lan Zhan's. The great priestess saw that Suqing's eyes didn't seem to be lying. She had no choice but to believe her. Finally, she took out a dark pill and handed it to Suqing. This is a pill to increase the child's talent. I didn't even give it to Zhuo Yang when she asked. This is the last one in the tribe. If the child is Lan Zhan's, fine. If it's not, I will find a way to get this pill back from you with interest later. Suqing's lips slightly curved. You won't have the chance to get it back. Lan Zhan pulled Suqing toward the wolf den, his face solemn. Suqing looked up at him. As the two exited the cave, they saw Lan Ji standing in the shadows. Lan Ji looked at her from a distance, his eyes filled with complexity and pain. Just as Suqing wanted to call out to him, he turned into his wolf form and disappeared into the trees. Suqing's belly grew larger each day, and her appetite soared. Ordinary meat could no longer satisfy the nutritional needs of her body. She ate the meat until her cheeks bulged. Lan Zhan watched her eat without gaining weight, his eyes filled with worry. Could you be sick? I'll ask the great priestess to check on you. I heard that extremely hungry females get a disease called bulimia. Suqing shook her head, refusing. She also found it incredibly strange. She'd been hungry before, but never to the point of eating nonstop. Now she ate constantly unless she was sleeping. The hunger was too intense and affecting her normal life. She questioned the system. The host is conceiving a high-ranking offspring, so a large amount of nutrition is needed. You can try world-tier celestial treasures. The system store wasn't open, so Suqing couldn't see anything. She could only tell Lan Zhan. Lan Zhan remembered the century-old ginseng Suqing had eaten last time and took it to heart. But better things required going deeper into the green swamp forest. The green swamp forest was fraught with danger. Lan Zhan wouldn't let Suqing enter. He asked Suqing to describe what she needed, and then he went into the green swamp forest himself. Suqing simply took out a slate and a charred piece of wood from the fire and drew the medicinal herbs she needed on the slate. The drawings were incredibly lifelike. Lan Zhan's pupils constricted. He had never seen such exquisite drawing before. What exactly is the origin of Suqing, this wandering beast man in their tribe? Such drawings are probably only found among people of the imperial city. Shock was shock, but he said nothing. No matter Suqing's origin, he would protect her. After that, Lan Zhan left early and returned late every day, sometimes not returning for days, all to find celestial treasures for Suqing. Suqing ate 2 portions of the century-old ginseng Lan Zhan found, and the hunger greatly subsided. Lan Zhan was thrilled and became even more diligent, going deeper into the green swamp forest just to find more celestial treasures for Suqing. Even when he was injured, he never mentioned it to Suqing. But strangely, there was always plenty of food in the cave every day, and it was all fresh. Suqing thought Lan Zhan had returned and left again, and didn't think much of it. Suqing hadn't gone near crowded beastmen areas during this time, knowing they rejected her. She hadn't seen Lanji for a long time either. Today, as she was looking for herbs on the edge of the green swamp forest, she suddenly heard a familiar howl. Curious, Suqing turned back and was startled the moment she saw Lanji. How had Lanji changed? The gentle aura he once had was gone. The previously slender youth was now covered in muscle, tall and handsome, and his ears had become white wolf ears. Lanji, what happened? Suqing quickly asked. The system replied, Lanji has upgraded from the yellow tier to the peak of the black tier, showing symptoms of mid-stage frenzy. The host does not need to feel guilty. It is the destiny of all males on the beast continent to eventually frenzy and turn into irrational beasts. This is their fate. Suqing's expression was complex. A smile twitched at her lips. Lanji, long time no see. Suqing spoke tentatively. She had never dealt with a male in frenzy and didn't know how to interact with him. Lanji stared at Suqing for a long time, his gaze falling on her familiar face and finally resting on her bulging stomach. A red light flashed in his eyes, and he lunged at Suqing like lightning. Caught off guard, Suqing was thrown to the ground by Lanji. Lanji's head moved closer, the red light in his eyes intensifying. Suqing's expression changed. Lanji, what are you doing? The red light in Lanji's eyes flickered. He stared at Suqing, his pink lips opening and closing. Irritation surged in his heart. A voice in his ear told him, "She is the female I have longed for. She should be mine. She should be mine." Lanji gripped Suqing's hand tighter and lowered his head. Another voice exploded in his ear. "She is my brother's mate. I can't. If I force her like this, Suqing will be unhappy." Lanji's mouth twitched slightly, forcing himself to regain clarity, the red light in his eyes flickering on and off. Suqing would dislike, even hate him. Suqing felt the hot breath spraying onto her lips, her heart pounding. Meeting Lanji's eyes, she clearly saw the young male's struggle. A flicker of complexity crossed her eyes. She gently reached up and touched Lanji's head, inadvertently stroking his soft, fuzzy wolf ear, which felt wonderful. "Lanji, are you okay?" As if a breeze had swept through the summer, the red light in his eyes instantly dispersed because of Suqing's gentle voice. He sat back on his knees, his eyes filled with restrained tenderness. Seeing her so beautiful and moving, the longing in his heart became unbearable, and he hugged her tightly. Suddenly, a powerful aura spread from deep within the forest. Lanji instantly became alert. He released Suqing, looked deeply at her, and his gaze was bitter. "Suqing, I'm sorry." He quickly disappeared into the forest. Suqing frowned slightly. Lanji's behavior just now was too strange, as if he couldn't control himself. Was he in a frenzy? Why could Lan Zhan control it? Before she could figure out what had happened, Lan Zhan's voice sounded in her ear. "Suqing, why are you sitting on the ground?" He quickly rushed over, bent down, and picked Suqing up. Suqing cried out as she lost her balance, her arms instinctively wrapping tightly around Lan Zhan. Lan Zhan was delighted to feel his little female so close to him. Just as he was about to carry Suqing away, he paused. He smelled Lanji's scent on Suqing. Lan Zhan's heart felt a pang of jealousy. Lanji must have come to see his child. Did the two of them share a moment of affection? Why else would Suqing carry Lanji's scent? He was extremely jealous. The narrative briefly shifts to a meta description of the fate of a female like Suqing in this world. The female possessed the world's most powerful fertility, yet after becoming pregnant, she was heartlessly abandoned. Countless compassionate petitions were written, begging for her to be sent into the male cave to be played with wantonly, only because their chief was naturally cold and infertile, while the chief's younger brother favored her greatly. Finally, when the female desperately cured the dying younger brother, they became even more convinced. This child was indeed the younger brother's. Lanji was seen again when he was being carried back. He had suffered a fatal injury, and the entire Beastman tribe instantly erupted. Suqing heard the commotion and walked out. Lanji on the stretcher was covered in blood and gore, his tail completely transformed into a beast's, and his hands had become wolf claws. Only his face remained clean and handsome. Suqing's heart pounded, and she rushed to follow, but was blocked by the Beastman. The Great Priestess was shocked by Lanji's appearance. Her brow furrowed. She took hold of Lanji's transformed hand. "There's no way. I can't save him." The Great Priestess shook her head, full of regret. Although Lanji's talent was poor, he was a good boy. The Beastmen seemed to accept this reality, their gazes toward Lanji tinged with sadness. He is already in the late stage of frenzy, and with such a severe injury, even if he doesn't die, he will become an irrational beast roaming around the green swamp forest. Discuss it. Prepare him for a dignified passing. The Great Priestess closed her eyes briefly before making this decision. Hearing the Great Priestess's emotionless voice and seeing Lanji on the stone bed, Suqing pushed past the Beastmen and walked forward. "Wait! I can save him!" Suqing's words were like a stone thrown into a calm lake, instantly creating waves. The Great Priestess looked at Suqing with deep annoyance, and the surrounding beastmen didn't hide their disgust, shouting, "Suqing, who do you think you are? Are you better than the Great Priestess? Are you crazy for attention?" The Great Priestess raised her hand to interrupt the crowd's questions. The people slowly quieted down, but their gazes were full of malice towards Suqing. "This is not a joke. I know you're doing this for the child, but don't overreach." Suqing frowned slightly. "Do they still think the child is Lanji's?" Her brow furrowed. "I will say it one more time. The child is not Lanji's, and I can save him, since he's just waiting to die. Why not let me try?" The Great Priestess hesitated. Not waiting for her to respond, Suqing secretly took out a restoration pill, which she had acquired by going 100 points into debt with the system, and slipped it into Lanji's mouth. Lanji faintly sensed Suqing nearby, and the item was slipped into his mouth, which he struggled to swallow. Suqing's heart leaped with joy. She then ripped open Lanji's clothes to examine the wound. It was filthy with blood, the skin was ripped, and a major artery was bleeding profusely. The Great Priestess's expression was grim, but she couldn't bear to see Lanji die like this. "Get the boiling water and needle and thread ready," Suqing's clear, cold voice rang out in the small cave. The beastmen shouted again, "Lanji is like this. Just let him pass with dignity." Suqing looked up, her icy gaze sweeping over the crowd. "If you waste any more words, Lanji might die faster. If he dies, I will take the responsibility. But if you do nothing, Lanjin will certainly not forgive you when he returns." Suqing's tough demeanor stunned both the beastmen and the Great Priestess. The cave became quiet. "Prepare it for her. Hurry!" Lanjan appeared. His eyes sank as he looked at Lanji on the stone bed, a dull ache in his chest. Seeing Lanzan, the beastman pleaded, "Chief, Suqing doesn't know what she's doing. You can't let her mess around. Even if you like Suqing, you can't indulge her. That's a life at stake." The Great Priestess was also unhappy. Lanzan's words instantly overruled her decision. "Lanji, you're awake!" In the middle of the argument, Suqing suddenly spoke, diverting the beastmen's attention. A few beastmen spoke sarcastically. "That's just a final surge of life. Why are you so excited? How can such a severe injury be cured by a few pokes?" One beastman looked up and froze, seeing Lanji's open eyes. "How is his complexion not as pale as before? He doesn't look like he's about to die." Lanjan strode over. Seeing Lanji awake, his eyes were anxious. "Are you all right?" Lanji nodded slightly, shifting his gaze to Suqing's face. His eyes traced her features carefully, as if to engrave her appearance in his heart forever. "Even if your intervention kills me, I am willing." Suqing looked at the young male's clear, gentle eyes, tightening her grip on his hand. "Trust me, I can heal you." Lanji felt the softness in his palm. "Okay, I trust you." Lanji finished, then looked up at Lanjan beside him. "Lanjan, treat Suqing well and the child in her belly." Lanjan was stunned. With these words from Lanji, Lanjan was even more certain the child was Lanji's. "Don't worry, I will take good care of them." Lanji finished speaking, closed his eyes, and lay back down. Suqing carefully cleaned the wound. The tribe had no alcohol, so she could only use boiling water to sterilize the needle and thread. She threaded the needle and, under the horrified gaze of the beastmen, began to stitch up Lanji's wound like sewing clothes. The beastmen were utterly shocked by this sight, and, unable to watch further, left the cave one after another. Lanjan and the Great Priestess watched Suqing's actions, their brows furrowing slightly, but remaining silent. Time passed slowly. Lanji's gruesome wounds were stitched up, stitch by stitch. Lanji was covered in sweat, but his consciousness grew clearer as the wounds were stitched. When Suqing completed the last stitch, Lanji opened his eyes. A smile appeared on his pale face. "Thank you." Suqing rubbed her sore wrist and gave him another restoration pill. She smiled. "Don't worry, I said I could save you, and I will." Lanji looked at Suqing's face. "Yes, I won't die." Suqing's legs were numb when she stood up. Lanjan immediately held her. "My feet are a bit numb. I'll have to trouble you to carry me back." Lanjan nodded, glanced at Lanji, then at the Great Priestess, and carried Suqing back to their cave. "Look after Lanji's wound carefully. He should apply the medicine I prepared last time. I'm too tired. I need to sleep." Lanjan nodded. After seeing her fall asleep, he turned and left the wolf den. Lanji survived the first night. When this news broke, the Beastman tribe instantly exploded. "I think she just got lucky." Zhuo Yang's eyes deepened. The Beastman's healing abilities were naturally strong. Suqing was just lucky. The tribe gradually believed this rhetoric and despised Suqing even more. Lanji woke up late at night. He moved to Suqing's bedside. He raised his hand, wanting to touch her, but feared his sharp claws would scratch her delicate face, and he reluctantly withdrew it. He lowered his head and gazed deeply at Suqing's sleeping face, his eyes full of contentment. He knew Suqing had saved him, but he was already in the late stage of frenzy. He could not hurt Suqing, he could not hurt the child in her belly, and he could not hurt his brother. There was no future with Suqing. Lanji quietly lowered his head, his warm lips brushing Suqing's brow. He took one last look at Suqing, turned, and quickly left the wolf den. Before he frenzied and became a beast, he had to go deep into the green swamp forest. When Suqing woke up and heard Lanjan say Lanji was awake, her face lit up with joy. "Lanji is better." But Lanjan completely confused Suqing with one sentence: "Lanji is gone." Lanjan knew Lanji left because his love for the original host caused his late-stage frenzy, and he didn't want to hurt the beastman he cared about. Lanjan was filled with guilt and pain. Suqing frowned tightly. Lanji frenzied and finally turned into a primitive beast because his love for the original host was unrequited. Suqing thought of his clean, clear eyes. "I have to find him. I can't let this happen to him." Lanjan made his final decision and was about to leave. Suqing grabbed him, looking at Lanjan with determination. "I'm going with you." Lanjan looked at her belly and pulled his hand away, refusing sternly. "You are pregnant. Lanji has most likely gone deep into the green swamp forest. You cannot go. It's too dangerous. Besides, Suqing, you are near your due date." Suqing rejected Lanjan's suggestion, knowing the system guaranteed her safety 100%. She could only pretend to comply, but as soon as Lanjan left, Suqing followed him. Lanjan soon discovered Suqing's trail. Looking at her determined eyes, his heart was both touched and bitter. He didn't know if Suqing would search for him without hesitation if something happened to him. "Since you followed me, be careful. Try to walk behind me." Suqing nodded, relieved. Suqing and Lanjan searched through the green swamp forest. They avoided beasts, but they didn't see Lanji. Lanjan noticed that many beastmen he once knew had frenzied into irrational beasts. He sighed inwardly, tightening his grip on Suqing's hand. Suqing moved and her stomach began to hurt. Her eyes widened in terror. The system warned, "Host is about to go into labor. Please prepare." Lanjan was startled. "What's wrong? Are you uncomfortable?" Suqing looked up at Lanjan, a drop of sweat rolling down her forehead. I think I'm going into labor. Lan Zhan's breathing became strained. We're going back. We're not searching anymore. We'll go back and find the Great Priestess to help you deliver. Su Qing communicated with the system. System, can you ensure I have a smooth delivery? The system was extremely excited. Host, don't worry. We guarantee the host a safe delivery. With the smooth birth pill, the pain will be as cold as ice, and you'll be a pain-free mother. Su Qing grabbed Lan Zhan. Her eyes were determined. It's too late. Find me a safe cave. I will deliver myself. Lan Zhan hesitated. It's too dangerous. Trust me. I promise I can deliver safely. Lan Zhan closed his eyes tightly. Fine. I'll listen to you. Lan Zhan quickly found a cave and gathered sweetgrass to soften the floor. Su Qing lay down. The system's voice rang out again. The host has taken the smooth birth pill. Half an hour for delivery. Only 10 minutes remain. Please wait. Su Qing looked up at Lan Zhan's panicked eyes and forced a smile. You go out first and get some water. Hot water is fine. I'll need to drink it later. Lan Zhan frowned heavily, not wanting to move. The forest is dangerous. I can't leave you. You bear with it for a moment. Su Qing gritted her teeth and glared at him. Then wait at the cave entrance. I need to rest. Lan Zhan carefully moved to the cave entrance. He quickly dashed out. Su Qing listened as the footsteps faded. The smooth birth pill took effect. She only felt a momentary dull swelling in her abdomen. Before she could react, the little thing was out. She looked down and saw a pure white wolf cub. The little fellow hadn't opened its eyes yet, and its 2 ears lay obediently against its forehead. It was cute no matter how she looked at it. Su Qing instinctively reached out, picked up the wolf cub, and used the sweetgrass to wipe off the mucus on its body. The system announced, "Congratulations to the host for successfully giving birth to a cub. Cub rank, Intermediate Heaven Tier. Innate Talent, Wind Element. Reward to host, Talent Enhancement, X1, 100,000 points, and a scroll of Horizontal Connection Cultivation Method. Reward to host, Yellow Tier Cultivation Method, Scroll X1. Reward to host, Childbirth Gift Package, X1. The system store is now open to the host." Su Qing's fingers twitched, and a blooming sound exploded in her head, instantly lighting up her spirits. With 100,000 points, the system store page opened, and the items within were dazzling. Su Qing's joy didn't last long. The system's mechanical voice sounded again. Although the host's childbirth was painless, the toll on the host's vitality is severe. Host will enter a state of suspended animation for physical recovery in 5 minutes. Please prepare. Su Qing couldn't help but curse under her breath. Without further ado, she quickly took out the childbirth gift package. It contained everything needed for childcare and was extremely practical. Everything ready, she called out to Lan Zhan. Lan Zhan rushed back to the cave entrance with the berries, his heart pounding wildly. When he heard Su Qing's call and the whimper of the little wolf, he dashed inside. Seeing the tiny ball of white fur beside Su Qing, his feet froze. This is Su Qing's child, and also Lanji's child. From now on, it is his child. His eyes were hot. He forced down a trace of bitterness in his heart and rushed over, anxiously embracing Su Qing. She looked terrifying now, deathly pale, bloodless, and her lips were faintly white. Are you all right? Su Qing heard the tremor in Lan Zhan's voice. Without time for small talk, she quickly explained how to use the milk powder, making sure Lan Zhan could feed the cub himself. Su Qing gripped Lan Zhan tightly. I need to sleep. It will take 2 days, so please take care of the child. I'll wake up after a sleep. Don't be afraid. Before she could explain more, her eyes closed, and she collapsed heavily. Lan Zhan's heart clenched. He called out softly, Su Qing! Su Qing! Su Qing gave no response. Her body lay limply in his arms. He could hear Su Qing's breathing gradually fade. Lan Zhan's face drained of all color. Ignoring Su Qing's instructions about the baby, he picked up the cub, grabbed the things, and rushed out of the cave with Su Qing on his back. He regretted it bitterly. How could he have listened to Su Qing just now? He should have stayed by her side. If he had, Su Qing wouldn't have had to give birth alone and face death by herself. Rushing out of the cave, he stopped again. They were deep in the green swamp forest, and the fog had thickened. He can endure it, but how can Su Qing's body and the child endure it? He looked at the strange items Su Qing had produced. He had never seen them before. If he returned to the Beastmen tribe, the Great Priestess and the Beastmen would surely question it. and Su Qing would once again be embroiled in trouble. He turned back and returned to the cave. He gently placed Su Qing on the sweetgrass bed, his brow furrowed as he looked at her sleeping face. He raised his hand and placed it on her nose. Her breathing had stopped. While together with Su Qing, he only felt everyday joy. It wasn't until he was certain Su Qing was truly gone that the heartbreaking pain made him realize how important Su Qing was to him. Lan Zhan's eyes reddened, and a tear slipped down, tracing his cheek before dripping onto the cub. The little wolf whined. Lan Zhan instantly snapped out of it. He looked down at the pure white cub. Now Su Qing is gone, and Lan Ji is gone. Only he and the little cub are left. He reached out a trembling hand and stroked Su Qing's cheek. Don't worry, I will be good to the child. Rest assured, you and Lan Ji, I will definitely take care of your child. Lan Zhan wiped the tears from his eyes and forced a smile. You sleep now, but remember to wake up. Don't sleep too long, or I'll be angry. Lan Zhan clumsily boiled water and prepared milk for the child. The little cub hadn't opened its eyes, but when the nipple touched its mouth, it automatically opened and began to suck. Lan Zhan's aching heart found a brief moment of solace, and his eyes reddened again. The longer Su Qing slept, the deeper the panic in Lan Zhan's heart grew. Did Su Qing lie to him? Was her vitality so drained that she was already dying? Su Qing slept for 2 days. Lan Zhan guarded her faithfully for 2 days, and the little cub was well cared for. Its white fur was clean and smooth, soft and melting to the touch. Lan Zhan wiped Su Qing's face, a gentle smile on his lips, and coaxed her with a tenderness he'd never used before. Su Qing, you've slept for a while. Open your eyes and look at the baby. He tried to bite my finger with his little teeth today. He's so mischievous, much more active than yesterday. I even gave him a bath. He smells so good. You'll love him when you wake up. Su Qing heard Lan Zhan's chattering voice and frowned slightly, clearly impatient. But Lan Zhan didn't notice. He held the little cub with his right arm and grasped Su Qing's hand with his left, murmuring gently, Su Qing, wake up quickly and see how cute the baby is. Suddenly, Lan Zhan's eyes widened. Surprise flashed in his sapphire blue eyes. He dropped the wolf cub to the side, completely ignoring its annoyed cries, and stared intently at Su Qing's fingertip. Was he mistaken? Su Qing moved! The surprise exploded in his mind. He stared at Su Qing's finger, afraid to miss the slightest anomaly. Thump, thump. The sound of a heartbeat filled his ears. His heartbeat. She moved. She really moved. Lan Zhan's eyes reddened again. The chief of the wolf tribe, the cold and unfeeling leader, had cried no less than 5 times in the last few days. All for Su Qing. This frail female. Su Qing opened her eyes, meeting Lan Zhan's bloodshot gaze, and was stunned for a moment. Lan Zhan cried. Lan Zhan carefully raised his hand and touched Su Qing's cheek. You slept for a long time. I was afraid you would forget to wake up. Su Qing sighed inwardly. She had gone to sleep without saying anything. So Lan Zhan likely thought she had died. She looked up at Lan Zhan's uncharacteristically panicked sapphire blue eyes, seeing his distress, and offered a soft smile. Then I should thank you. Lan Zhan laughed and held Su Qing tightly, but only for a moment. He quickly released her. He was afraid his strength would crush Su Qing. The current Su Qing was, in his eyes, like a fragile piece of pottery that needed careful protection. Su Qing pushed Lan Zhan away and quickly stood up, moving so fast that Lan Zhan didn't react. Was this the same Su Qing who had no breath just now? How did she wake up so lively after a nap? Let's go find Lan Ji right away. Lan Zhan frowned tightly. You are still very weak. Stay with the baby first. I'll get you some food. Seeing Su Qing awake, he put aside his concern for Lan Ji. Su Qing wanted to say she had food in her space, but she also needed time to organize the system store's contents, so she agreed. Lan Zhan was quick to return, bringing Su Qing roasted venison. Su Qing took it and took a bite. Seeing Lan Zhan staring at her without blinking, she said, You eat too. I can't finish all this. Lan Zhan averted his gaze and began to eat. He hadn't eaten for 2 days while guarding Su Qing and was indeed hungry. Have you named the child? Lan Zhan's lips curved into a bitter smile. I'm not the child's birth father. What right do I have to name him? You name him, Su Qing said. All the males of the wolf tribe are surnamed Lan, and he was born in the green swamp forest, which, though dangerous, nurtures many tribes. Let's call him Lan Zhe. Lan Zhan had no objections. After eating, Suqing urged him to find Lanji. Lanzhan placed the little cub on his back and led Suqing away. Suqing noticed that Lanzhan was extremely clingy. No matter where he went, he took her with him, afraid that something would happen to her. This must be the after effect of the 2 days of suspended animation. Suqing was helpless and let him be. They wandered through the green swamp forest for 2 days, before finally spotting Lanji. A white wolf stood in the distance in the forest, the lightning mark on its forehead exceptionally clear. "Lanji!" Lanzhan called out, his eyes filled with distress. Suqing looked over as well. Lanji had completely turned into a beast of frenzy. His light blue eyes were now covered in red. When Lanzhan called him, he showed no reaction, only tilting his head back and howling. Suddenly, he dropped to his front paws and charged at Suqing and Lanzhan like an arrow. Lanzhan moved, quickly dodging with Suqing and the child, setting them down in a safe area, transforming into his beast form and fighting Lanji. Suqing watched as the 2 white shadows tangled in a fast, furious battle, her heart in her throat. The system had detected that Lanji had reached the heaven tier level, a formidable opponent. A frenzied beast of the same rank is stronger than a beast man of the same rank. Suqing understood this. A lunatic without reason is invincible. Lanzhan was knocked down by Lanji and rolled several times on the ground. Lanzhan was clearly holding back his strength, but Lanji had completely lost his mind. Lanzhan was not his match. As Lanji attacked again, Suqing exchanged another life-preserving pill with the system and rushed out, shielding Lanzhan. "Suqing, get out of the way!" Lanzhan's expression changed drastically, his heart racing because of Suqing. Lanji has lost his mind. Suqing is taking too big a risk. Lanzhan hesitated to fight back with full force because he couldn't bear to hurt Lanji, and Lanji's condition was partly his fault. Lanji lunged forward, tearing the clothes on Suqing's shoulder. Suqing's shoulder was bloody. Lanzhan's eyes turned red, and he rushed out. "Suqing, move!" Lanzhan clutched his wounded abdomen, trying to embrace Suqing to dodge. Suqing pushed him away. Suqing recklessly exchanged several more life-preserving pills with the system. After swallowing them, she charged at Lanji again. Lanzhan couldn't stop her. Suqing tried to approach Lanji several times, but he swiped at her with his wolf claws. The sharp claws drew blood every time, causing Lanzhan immense distress. Suqing, however, seemed to have gone mad. She wouldn't listen to reason. The final time, Lanji rushed over again. Suqing seized the opportunity, leaping onto Lanji's back. Suqing held Lanji's neck tightly, her voice gentle and soothing. "Lanji, you'll be all right. Don't be afraid. I'm here." The red in Lanji's eyes gradually receded. As Suqing stroked him, the red was replaced by light blue. Lanji calmed down. He turned his head and looked at the scarred Suqing, shaking his fur and dislodging Suqing. His large head nudged into Suqing's arms. Lanzhan watched the scene, his anxiety fading, but he dared not approach. Lanji nudged Suqing again, then extended his tongue and licked the wounds on Suqing's body. Suqing felt a warm sensation on her wounds. As Lanji licked them, the wounds slowly healed. Suqing looked down at the snowy white wolf head, raised her hands, cupped his head, and looked into his light blue eyes. "Why are you so foolish? You ran away without a word. Can I take you home?" Lanji obediently nestled in her arms, though it was unclear if he understood. Suqing tentatively stood up. As soon as she moved away from Lanji, his breathing became rapid, and his eyes began to turn red again. He was about to frenzy. Suqing quickly placed her hand on Lanji's head, gently stroking his fur. Suqing could be certain that she could soothe Lanji's emotions. Lanzhan also understood. He looked deeply at Suqing's eyes. He thought of his former self. "Lanzhan, let's take him with us." Lanzhan's thoughts returned, and he nodded heavily. Lanji was very clingy to Suqing. As soon as Suqing's hand left his body, he would go into a frenzy. Suqing could only ride on Lanji's back, and he followed her everywhere. Even at night, Lanji slept right next to Suqing. If Suqing so much as rolled over and moved away from him, Lanji would frantically paw Suqing back into his embrace, possessively licking her. Lanzhan was initially relieved that Lanji's emotions were stable, but seeing them close together and having to sleep with the cub on the other side, his heart felt deeply sour, even a little jealous. Suqing had never stroked his beast form so gently. With Suqing nearby, Lanji's emotions were relatively stable. However, when Lanjan came near, Lanji would snarl and become agitated, his blatant possessiveness not allowing Lanjan to get close. Even when Suqing touched the little cub, Lanji was unhappy, though not as agitated as when Lanjan touched Suqing. Lanjan didn't plan to stay longer. The green swamp forest was fraught with danger. He was afraid he couldn't handle it. Although bringing Lanji back to the tribe presented a problem for his placement, it was better than the present situation. Lanjan put the cub on his back, looked at Suqing sitting on Lanji's back, and said softly, "Get ready, and we'll leave." Suqing nodded. They set out in the morning fog. However, they soon encountered a pack of primitive wolves. Their eyes glowed green, staring menacingly at Suqing. Lanji bared his teeth, gave a long howl, and charged in. Suqing was thrown to the ground. Before she could stand up, a wolf charged at her. Suqing quickly rolled and jumped up, scrambling into a thicket of thorns. Lanjan's face changed drastically. He rushed towards Suqing's direction, but was quickly surrounded by the pack of wolves, unable to break free. The battle lasted for more than half an hour. Both Lanji and Lanjan were wounded. Lanji became agitated. "First, find Suqing. Control yourself," Lanjan urged. Ignoring him, Lanjan searched in the direction Suqing had disappeared. Suqing had run blindly to escape the pursuing wolf and ended up lost. She looked at the foggy environment. Visibility was only a few feet. She dared not move haphazardly, afraid of encountering more dangerous beasts. She asked the system, but it seemed deaf after her childbirth, giving no response. She looked up at the sun's white light and walked toward the east. After an unknown period, a soft rustling sound came from the forest. Suqing held her breath, staring at the thorny thicket. This time, she heard it clearly. It was a human voice. Suqing's eyes lit up. She was afraid of getting lost and dying in the forest. She carefully followed the sound. A figure appeared in Suqing's sight. It was a male, with distinct, handsome features, looking more serious than Lanji. His upper body was covered in deep gashes from a wild beast, and blood streamed down. Suqing carefully crouched down to check. "Can you hear me?" The male suddenly opened his eyes, a pair of amber pupils meeting Suqing's gaze, narrowing dangerously. "Where did this female come from?" Suqing didn't answer him, only staring at his wounds. "If you delay any longer, you will die. It would be a shame for such a handsome beastman to die." Before the beastman could react, Suqing quickly tore off the blood-soaked linen shirt. His heart was pierced by a sharp claw, and several internal organs were ruptured. Spontaneous healing was impossible. She cleaned his wounds. He tried to resist, but he was too weak. Suqing pressed his hand down. "Trust me, I can save you." The handsome male was stunned by Suqing's actions. Something flickered in his amber eyes, quickly subsiding. Seeing that the male was no longer resisting, Suqing gave him an anesthesia pill before stitching his wounds. The handsome male was surprised to find that the needle and thread going through his body, which should have been excruciating, caused him no pain. "Why are you in the green swamp forest?" the handsome male asked, his voice clear after having had some water. Suqing shrugged helplessly. "I got lost from my family." Females were incredibly rare among beastmen. For safety, they were never allowed to enter the green swamp forest, let alone go in alone. The handsome male believed the small female's words to some extent. "Please help me move. I have wounds on my back and waist as well." Suqing quickly turned the bear beastman over. His back wounds were no less severe than the front. She worked quickly, and her body was soon exhausted. "It's getting dark." Suqing was completely unfamiliar with the green swamp forest. The bear beastman was still covered in blood, and the scent would be a huge temptation to the wild beasts at night. Suqing didn't dare to imagine. The handsome male understood. "There's a cave up ahead. Let's take shelter there first." Suqing nodded. The handsome male tried to stand up but swayed. Suqing quickly grabbed him. As Suqing's skin touched him, the amber eyes of the handsome male shifted. This touch was different from the touch while treating his wounds. It felt somewhat comfortable. The handsome male pulled himself together and led Suqing to the cave entrance. Suqing's mouth twitched. "Isn't this the same cave they left this morning? Is something wrong?" The handsome male's amber eyes stared at Suqing. Seeing her expression was off, he asked, "It's nothing. My family and I just left here this morning." The bear beast man sniffed the air. detecting the faint scent of 2 males. His eyes deepened. It was getting dark. Su Qing was starving, having not eaten for a long time. It was inconvenient to use her space in front of a strange beast man, so she used the excuse of going for a walk, returning with food. She built a fire and began to roast the meat. The aroma permeated the entire cave. The handsome male's eyes were fixed on Su Qing. In his understanding, females were all frail and needed careful protection. The small female in front of him was skinny but not weak. She could hunt and heal him, and her cooking method was obviously refined and systematic. He was curious. What kind of family could raise such a formidable female? Eat! The unfamiliar aroma wafted into the bear beastman's nostrils. His amber eyes shifted, and he hesitantly took the piece Su Qing offered. Su Qing bit into her own piece, very satisfied. Despite the danger in the green swamp forest, she had previously found cumin and pepper there and used them to make seasonings. The roasted meat sprinkled with them was exceptionally fragrant. The handsome male watched Su Qing eat happily, her small mouth stuffed, and his stomach rumbled. He quickly took a bite. The delicious food filled his taste buds, and his amber eyes brightened. What did you put on it? Su Qing was not stingy and showed him the seasonings. It smells wonderful. The green swamp forest has a lot of this. The handsome male knew these things existed, but didn't dare to eat them. The old beastman in the tribe had warned them that things with the strongest aromas were the most poisonous. He never expected this small female would dare to eat it, and it was incredibly delicious. The bear beastman's gaze was complex. He closed his eyes, waiting for death. He didn't blame the small female. After all, he would have died without her. Su Qing didn't know what the handsome male was thinking, assuming he was too tired. She covered the entrance with thorns and crawled into the sweetgrass pile. She was tired too. The handsome male waited for death to come. Instead of death, he was overtaken by sleepiness. Su Qing was awakened by licking. She batted away the offending object, opening her eyes. She met a pair of light blue eyes. It was Lanji. He had found her. Su Qing happily hugged the wolf head and affectionately ruffled his fur several times. She seemed to have forgotten something. When she realized it, she noticed the male figure was long gone from the cave. She pouted, "I saved an ungrateful wretch." Su Qing stroked the white wolf fur, stood up, and brushed the grass off her clothes. Let's go back to the tribe first. Lang Zhan must be frantic. It is revealed that Su Qing truly misjudged Qingming. He sensed the incoming beast was not a threat, and thinking of the family the little female mentioned, he felt it would be bad for a lone male to be seen with a female, so he hid nearby to protect her. Seeing Su Qing leave safely, Qingming flashed and disappeared into the forest. Lanji followed clingily behind Su Qing, not understanding what she was saying. Today the fog had lifted, and Su Qing could see farther. Walking with Lanji in the forest gave her a great sense of security. However, she celebrated too soon. The wild beasts she normally wouldn't encounter seemed to have a tracker on her these past 2 days. She had already faced the 3rd wave today. They were lost in the green swamp forest and couldn't find the way back to the tribe. She clung precariously to Lanji's back as he ran wildly, fiercely pursued by wild beasts. Su Qing looked back, her heart pounding. If she got bitten, she would lose her life today. "They are here! Here!" Suddenly, a strong voice sounded. Su Qing looked up, just in time to see a sharp arrow fly past her cheek. The shooter was Lan Zhan. The male's eyes were icy and his face grim. When his gaze met Su Qing's, a trace of warmth flashed in his eyes. "Su Qing, don't be afraid. I'm here." Lan Zhan's powerful voice calmed Su Qing. The arrow plunged straight into the eyes of the beast behind her. Su Qing leaped down. Before she could stand steady, she was enveloped in a strong embrace. "You're all right. That really scared me." Before Su Qing could answer, Lanji behind her became agitated, growling and showing his teeth. Su Qing quickly raised her hand and patted Lanji's head to soothe him. "It's okay. Where's the baby?" Lan Zhan glared at Lanji, but still answered Su Qing's question. "The baby is fine back at the tribe." Lan Zhan, with the tribe's males, dealt with the pursuing beasts and led them back to the tribe. As she stepped into the tribe, everyone crowded around with concern. "Chief, are you all right? You brought back so much food, you're amazing." Then, a sudden, less concerned voice. "Su Qing is back? Didn't they say she died in the green swamp forest?" Su Qing's eyes narrowed at the female who spoke. She was only gone for a day, and the rumors of her death have already started. Ha! How badly do they want her dead? "Su Qing, how dare you come back and stay with the chief? The child you gave birth to is Lanji's, and you even caused Lanji to turn into a beast of frenzy for you. You are a plague! The chief protects her so much, going into the dangerous green swamp forest to save her. Who is she to deserve this? The beastmen in the tribe had all seen the cub with the white fur that Lanjan brought back, which further confirmed that the child belonged to Lanji. Now, the females were trying to win the chief's favor, hoping he would abandon Su Qing so they could take her place. Su Qing sneered and was about to retort. Lanzan's gaze swept over the few females who were speaking. Frenzy is the destiny of every male. Even if Lanji did not frenzy because of Su Qing, it would have been because of something else. Furthermore, the tribe requires everyone to be united. Now that Su Qing has successfully given birth to a child, she is no longer a female with low fertility, she is just like you. Lanzan's face went cold. The females paled with fear and quickly shut their mouths. Su Qing held her head up high. It's different when you have backing. Lanzan pulled Su Qing away. Let's go see the baby! Lanji stared at Lanzan's hand, his eyes flashing, but he didn't snarl this time, still following Su Qing closely. His mood was clearly much more stable. Su Qing returned to the familiar cave and saw the cub lying there. Her heart softened. The child is returned to you. Never be so reckless again. The great priestess scolded Su Qing, dropping the words before leaving. Su Qing couldn't be bothered with her. She stroked the cub, and Lanji came up to her, obediently lying down at her feet. When Lanjan approached, Lanji immediately raised his head and bared his teeth at him. Lanjan gnashed his teeth and glared at him. Go busy yourself with something else. Lanji's mood gradually stabilized. Su Qing often took the cub out for walks, always accompanied by Lanji. Since Lanji was now a beast of frenzy, everyone consciously kept their distance. However, some of the males in the tribe were acting strangely. Whenever Su Qing appeared, they would smile at her. Some of the wilder ones would even pose to show off their muscles. Su Qing was confused. Why were they so attentive? Su Qing, you are so beautiful. This is for you. A heaven-tier beastman appeared before Su Qing, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Su Qing paused. Before she could decide whether to accept it, the flowers were already in her hands. The male ran off. This was not the end. All along the way, males were either giving her flowers or food, or even precious stones. Precious stones were the universal currency of the Beastman tribe, extracted from magical beasts and extremely valuable. Yet they just gave them away. Su Qing quickly shook her head to refuse. The male was disappointed and left. Su Qing was utterly bewildered. Are they all crazy? Why are they so incredibly eager? For several days in a row, Su Qing received gifts from the males. Some even dared to deliver them to the entrance of the wolf den. Su Qing had a terrible headache. She stored the items in the system space, planning to return them the next time she encountered the males. Lanzan entered the cave with a dark expression today. Seeing Su Qing lying on the bed holding the cub, his sapphire blue eyes immediately darkened. Before Su Qing could react, he had pinned her down. What are you doing? Did you take the wrong medicine? Lanzan didn't give Su Qing a chance to answer. He quickly pushed the little cub aside and lunged onto her. Su Qing could only submit. At first, Lanjan was fierce, but he gradually softened. He looked at Su Qing with a hint of grievance. You can't accept those males' gifts, and you can't mate with them. Su Qing was confused, then realized the recent strange behavior of the males in the tribe was because they wanted to have children with her. Perhaps the males were excited because she had given birth to Lanjan's child and established offspring. Su Qing was speechless. No, don't worry. Lanzan was satisfied with the assurance. His mood instantly lifted. He hadn't been close to Su Qing for days. He was either kept away by the baby or Lanji. Today, he had blocked the cave entrance so Lanji couldn't get in. Later that night, Lanzan suddenly roared. Su Qing was startled, and the system let out a sharp, congratulatory sound. Lanzan has stepped into the spirit tier. A spirit tier heaven rank? Su Qing looked at Lanzan excitedly. If so, could she give birth to a higher quality baby and gain more points? The system instantly poured cold water on her excitement. Host's rank is too low. Host cannot conceive the offspring of a spirit tier heaven rank. Su Qing, who had been planning a second child with Lanjan, suddenly felt deflated. Lanzan calmed down, utterly delighted. He realized that Su Qing's soothing had helped him overcome the last frenzy, and this time, entering the spirit tier was also Su Qing's doing. Therefore, he must mate with Suqing more often. Mating will help him level up. His eyes glowed as he stared at Suqing, making the Suqing beneath him shiver. As little Lanze grew, Suqing's appetite also soared. Lanzan often went out hunting for his family. Later that night, footsteps sounded in the cave while they slept. Suqing thought it was Lanzhan, believing that even with her low fertility rank, she might still have a small chance. She pulled Lanzan onto the bed. Her hands met with a cold body. Suqing didn't mind, thinking Lanzan had just returned from outside and was chilled by the cold wind. She climbed onto Lanzhan's body. The muscles beneath her instantly tensed. Suqing was even more puzzled. "Are you tired?" Normally, as soon as Suqing took the initiative, Lanzhan would excitedly leap onto her. Tonight was very strange. Lanzhan didn't speak, only reached out and held Suqing tightly. Suqing felt his quick, shallow breaths by her ear. He was aroused, but why wasn't he acting? Playing coy tonight? Suqing teased with a smile. Her hands moving restlessly, the firm muscles beneath her were irresistible. A muffled sound escaped from above her head. Suqing smiled. No matter how tired, he can't resist a little provocation. But then, Lanzan's actions confused her. She was rolled over. Lanzan covered Suqing, but remained motionless, only his quick, shallow breathing audible. "Sleep," Lanzan whispered. His voice was low. Suqing laughed. "Fine, I'll spare you." Suqing turned onto her side. Lanzhan lay next to her, his muscles rigid. The man who usually held her waist while sleeping was now like a heavy slab of wood, not moving at all. Suqing didn't think much of it, assuming he was truly exhausted. She slept soundly all night. The person next to her heard Suqing's rhythmic breathing and suddenly opened his eyes. Moonlight streamed into the cave, illuminating a pair of amber eyes. It was Qingming, the male Suqing had rescued in the green swamp forest. The girl never expected that. Simply by giving birth to a child for a high-ranking figure, she would be chased by countless male beastmen who wanted to stick to her 28 hours a day. This was because the girl, upon transmigrating, had been bound to the childbirth system, and her super fertility drew the desperate attention of numerous powerful figures. The next time Lanji was seen, he was carried back. He had suffered a fatal injury, and the Beastman tribe instantly erupted in turmoil. Suqing heard the commotion and walked out. Lanji, on the stretcher, was a bloody mess, his tail completely bestialized. His hand turned into a wolf claw, and white wolf fur covered him from the neck down. Only his face remained clear and handsome. Her heart pounded wildly, and she hurried to follow. But she was blocked by the beastmen. The great priestess frowned heavily upon seeing Lanji's state, shaking her head and saying he couldn't be saved. The beastmen were heartbroken, but seemed to accept the fact, preparing only for his funeral so he could leave with dignity. When Suqing heard this, she shouted, "I can save him." Suqing's words instantly caused an uproar. The great priestess looked at her with annoyance, and the beastmen chattered angrily. Everyone thought Suqing was only trying to make trouble because of the child. But Suqing frowned, insisting firmly, "The child is not Lanji's, but I can save him. Since we are all just waiting for him to die, why not let me try?" Without waiting for the great priestess to react, Suqing shoved the restoration pill she had exchanged from the system into Lanji's mouth. She then tore open Lanji's clothes to examine the wounds. The injuries were horrific and bleeding profusely. Although the great priestess was displeased, she tacitly allowed it and prepared hot water and needlework. The beastmen grumbled in opposition. Suqing forcefully retorted, "If you keep chattering, Lanji will die faster, and that would be bad. I will take responsibility. If you don't help, Lanzan will not forgive you when he returns." The crowd finally quieted down. Just then, Lanji suddenly woke up. Some beastmen suspected it was the final temporary flash of life, but when they saw Lanji's complexion slowly improve, everyone was astonished. Lanji looked at Suqing and said, "You came to save me. Even if you can't cure me, I'm willing to let you try." Suqing held his hand and promised, "Don't worry, I can cure you." Lanji then turned to the newly returned Lanzhan and instructed him, "You must take good care of Suqing and the child in her belly." Hearing his brother's words, Lanzhan assumed the child belonged to Lanji. Afterward, Suqing began to clean the wounds. Since there was no alcohol, she could only use boiling water to sterilize, and then used needle and thread to stitch the wounds like sewing cloth. The beastmen were dumbfounded. Many thought Suqing was completely reckless, and, unable to watch, they left. Lan Zhan and the Great Priestess were perplexed but did not stop her. After a long time, Su Qing finally finished the stitches. Exhausted, she returned to the stone cave to rest. With the care of the Great Priestess and Lan Zhan, Lan Ji survived the first night. He hadn't died. Su Qing had saved him. By the time Lan Ji truly woke up, it was the evening of the next day. He looked at the sleeping Su Qing, knowing she had saved him, and his eyes were filled with contentment. He knew he was in the final stages of frenzy. If he got too agitated, he would turn into a beast and hurt them. So he quietly left under the cover of night. The next day, Su Qing was puzzled to hear that Lan Ji had left. Lan Zhan told her that Lan Ji left because he was in the late stages of frenzy and didn't want to hurt anyone. Su Qing thought of how good Lan Ji had always been to her and decided to go look for him. But Lan Zhan disagreed. "You're pregnant, and the Green Swamp Forest is too dangerous. Besides, you're due soon and should be waiting in the tribe." Su Qing was protected by the system but couldn't say so she pretended to agree. As soon as Lan Zhan left, she secretly followed him. The Green Swamp Forest was full of dangers, with mist swirling, poisonous snakes and weeds everywhere, and beasts and magical creatures rampant. Lan Zhan quickly realized Su Qing had followed him. He felt conflicted, but had no choice but to let Su Qing follow him as they searched together. They searched for a long time, but didn't find Lan Ji. Instead, they saw many once familiar beastmen who had gone into frenzy and turned into vicious beasts. Su Qing comforted Lan Zhan, saying, "Don't worry, the fact that we haven't seen Lan Ji means he hasn't completely gone into frenzy yet." No sooner had she spoken than Su Qing's stomach began to hurt. She was going into labor. Lan Zhan was terrified and anxiously said, "We must hurry back and find the Great Priestess for help." Su Qing communicated with the system, "Can you let me give birth safely?" The system excitedly replied, "Find a safe cave, and a smooth birth is guaranteed. Moreover, there's a smooth birth pill for a painless and worry-free delivery." Su Qing then pulled Lan Zhan back, saying firmly, "There's no time. Find a safe cave. I will deliver the baby myself." Although Lan Zhan was hesitant, he saw the determined look in Su Qing's eyes and agreed. He found a cave in the familiar green swamp forest and laid out the sweetgrass. As Su Qing lay down, the system prompted, "Smooth birth pill is taking effect. Delivery within half an hour. Remaining time for preparation, 10 minutes. Su Qing asked Lan Zhan to go out and get hot water, but Lan Zhan was worried about the danger and refused to leave, so Su Qing made him wait at the cave entrance. As soon as Lan Zhan left, Su Qing successfully gave birth to a pure white wolf cub. The system immediately announced, "Congratulations to the host for a successful childbirth. Win talent at the heaven tier has been broken through. Additional rewards and the system store are now open." However, Su Qing's joy didn't last long. The system said again, "Due to severe vitality loss from childbirth, the host will enter a false death state for 5 minutes for body repair." Su Qing quickly prepared the childcare supplies from the gift package, then called Lan Zhan back. Lan Zhan returned to the cave and saw the cub, knowing it was the child of Su Qing and Lan Ji, and that he would now protect them. He picked up Su Qing, seeing her face pale, and anxiously asked for her condition. But Su Qing had no time to explain, quickly telling him how to use the milk powder, asking him to care for the cub, and claiming she needed to sleep for 2 days. She then fell into the false death state, Lan Zhan's calls went unanswered, and he realized Su Qing had stopped breathing, terrified and bloodless. He rushed out of the cave with Su Qing on his back, but the deep forest was shrouded in thick fog. Fearing Su Qing and the cub couldn't endure it, and worried that returning to the tribe would cause trouble for Su Qing, he turned back to the cave. During the 2 days of Su Qing's false death, Lan Zhan carefully cared for the cub, boiling water and feeding milk, but his heart was filled with terror, afraid Su Qing would never wake up. 2 days later, Su Qing woke up and saw Lan Zhan's red eyes, and she understood. Lan Zhan gently touched her face and said, "You slept for a long time. I was afraid you wouldn't wake up." Su Qing was filled with gratitude and embraced Lan Zhan tightly. They named the cub Lan Zhe. Soon, they set off with the cub, continuing the search for Lan Ji. After wandering the forest for 2 days, they finally saw Lan Ji. He had become a beast of frenzy, his eyes blazing red. Lan Zhan called out to Lan Ji, but he was unresponsive and charged straight at them. Lan Zhan quickly shielded Su Qing and the cub, transforming into his beast form to fight him. Lan Zhan was too cautious and was no match for Lan Ji. He was knocked to the ground by Lan Ji. Su Qing exchanged another life-preserving pill from the system and rushed out to shield Lan Zhan. Lan Zhan was horrified and told her to get away. How could Su Qing dodge now? She was protected by the system. But Lan Zhan, fighting the frenzied Lan Ji, was afraid to strike back and would only end up dying. So Su Qing impulsively exchanged several more life-preserving pills and continued to charge at Lan Ji. Finally, she jumped onto Lan Ji's back and gently soothed him. Lan Ji slowly calmed down. Su Qing was certain that she could stabilize Lan Ji's emotions. She wanted to take Lan Ji home, but as soon as she moved away from him, he showed signs of frenzy. She could only stay close to Lan Ji. Lan Zhan saw this from afar, understood that Su Qing could stabilize Lan Ji, and agreed to take him with them. However, the frenzied Lan Ji was very clingy to Su Qing. As soon as Su Qing's hand left his body, he would frenzy. Su Qing could only ride on Lan Ji's back and follow him everywhere. Now that Lan Ji was recovered, but the baby was young, Lan Zhan considered the situation and decided to return to the tribe. Although settling Lan Ji was a tricky problem, the Green Swamp Forest was too dangerous for him to manage. So they left the cave. Early the next morning, they hadn't gone far when they were blocked by a pack of wild wolves. Lan Ji charged forward without hesitation, but Su Qing was thrown to the ground. A wolf immediately pounced on her. Su Qing reacted quickly, rolling and hiding in a thicket of thorns. Seeing this, Lan Zhan rushed toward Su Qing in a panic but was completely surrounded by the wolves and couldn't break free. Meanwhile, Su Qing ran desperately to escape the pursuing wolf, eventually getting lost in the fog. She didn't dare to move recklessly. When she called the system for help, there was no response. She could only use the sun's position to grope her way eastward. After an unknown period, Su Qing heard a noise in the thorny thicket. Listening closely, it was a human voice. She was delighted and followed the sound, finding an injured man. He was resolute and robust, but covered in fresh, bloody wounds. Su Qing crouched down to ask, but the man watched her warily. Su Qing thought it would be a pity for such a handsome beastman to die. So before the beastman could react, she quickly tore his clothes to treat the wounds. She gave him an anesthesia pill before stitching the wounds, and then a restoration pill. When Qingming found that his wounds were actually improving, he dropped his guard. After everything was finished, the sky began to darken. Su Qing worried about the dangers of the night, but Qingming said he knew of a cave where they could take shelter. Su Qing helped him there. When they arrived, they discovered it was the same cave they had left that morning. Qingming smelled the scent of other males in the air, and his expression subtly changed. After dark, Su Qing was starving. She used the excuse of going out to find food, exchanged some ingredients from the system, and roasted them in the cave. The aroma permeated the entire cave. Qingming watched Su Qing. Filled with curiosity for this frail yet capable woman, Su Qing used the cumin and pepper from the forest to season the roasted meat, making it incredibly fragrant. Qingming was greatly impressed after tasting it. Su Qing told him there were many such things in the forest. Although Qingming knew about them, he dared not eat them because of tribe rumors that intensely fragrant things were the most poisonous. Now the food was extremely delicious, but he still worried about poison. He didn't blame Su Qing though, only silently waited for death. Su Qing thought he was tired. She blocked the cave entrance with thorns and rested. Qingming waited for death, but instead fell asleep. Early the next morning, Qingming quietly left due to the commotion at the cave entrance. Su Qing was awakened by Lan Ji licking her. She was overjoyed to see him, but then realized Qingming was gone, muttering a few words under her breath before deciding to return to the tribe. Opening parentheses. In truth, Qingming was hiding nearby, protecting her, and only left after seeing her safe. Since Su Qing gave birth and returned to the tribe, the behavior of the tribe's males became eccentric. They smiled at Su Qing, some showed off their muscles and gave her gifts. Su Qing politely refused them all, but some of the bolder ones delivered gifts directly to the wolf den entrance. Su Qing was helpless and could only store the gifts in her space to return them later. One day, Lan Zhan returned with a dark expression. Seeing Su Qing lying on the bed, holding the baby, he pinned her down without a word. You are not allowed to accept things from other males, and you cannot mate with them. Su Qing was startled, then finally understood that the unusual behavior of the males in the tribe recently was because they wanted to have children with her. After Lan Zhan received Su Qing's assurance, he was delighted, and his actions became gentler. He hadn't been close to Su Qing for days. Either the baby or Lan Ji had occupied her. Today, he blocked the cave entrance so Lan Ji couldn't enter, giving him plenty of time with Su Qing. Late into the night, Lan Zhan suddenly advanced to the spirit tier. Su Qing was excited, thinking she could have a higher quality baby and gain more points. But the system told her her rank was too low to conceive a spirit tier offspring. Suqing was instantly deflated. Lan Zhan calmed down, filled with pleasant surprise. He realized his advancement was Suqing's doing and decided to mate with her more. His eyes glowed as he stared at Suqing, making the Suqing beneath him shiver. Before Suqing could react, she was caught in a powerful tremor again. The next morning, Suqing felt sore all over, looking at Lan Zhan with mixed feelings of love and hatred. At this moment, a commotion erupted at the cave entrance. Lan Zhan guiltily said he had accidentally blocked the entrance last night. Suqing rolled her eyes, thinking, who would believe that? Lan Zhan opened the entrance, and Lan Ji immediately rushed in and whined as he burrowed into Suqing's arms. Lan Zhan quickly left. As little Lan Zi grew older, his appetite also began to skyrocket. Lan Zhan often went out hunting for his family. That night, just as Suqing fell asleep, footsteps sounded in the cave. Suqing thought it was Lan Zhan, thinking that even with her low fertility rank, she might still have a small chance. She pulled him onto the bed. His body felt cold, but she didn't mind, thinking Lan Zhan had just returned from outside and was chilled by the cold wind. She climbed onto Lan Zhan's body. The muscles of the person beneath her instantly tensed. Suqing was more puzzled. Are you tired? Normally, as soon as Suqing took the initiative, Lan Zhan would excitedly leap onto her. Tonight was very strange. Lan Zhan didn't speak, only reached out and held Suqing tightly. Suqing felt his quick, shallow breaths by her ear. He was aroused, but why wasn't he acting? Playing coy tonight? Suqing teased with a smile, her hands moving restlessly. The firm muscles beneath her were irresistible. A muffled sound escaped from above her head. Suqing smiled. No matter how tired, he can't resist a little provocation. But then, Lan Zhan's actions confused her. She was rolled over. Lan Zhan enveloped her, but remained motionless, only his quick, shallow breathing audible. Sleep, Lan Zhan said in a whisper. Suqing laughed. Fine, I'll spare you. Suqing lay on her side. Lan Zhan lay next to her, his muscles tense. The man who usually held her waist while sleeping was now like a heavy slab of wood, not moving at all. Suqing didn't think much of it, assuming he was truly exhausted. Once Suqing was fast asleep, Qingming opened his eyes again. He looked at the female's delicate profile, thought of her recent actions, and couldn't help but swallow. Then he flashed and left the cave. For the next few days, Qingming came at night and left during the day, maintaining the same restraint, though he progressed from being awkward to occasionally holding Su Weqing tightly. He left just as dawn broke each time. Suqing was puzzled, but only thought Lan Zhan had become more diligent. In the afternoon, Lan Zhan returned. As soon as they met, Lan Zhan pulled Suqing onto the stone bed. The commotion in the cave was too loud. The stone bed banged against the wall, scaring the rats in the cave away. At this moment, a pair of amber eyes flashed behind the cave. So she is this passionate, captivating, and tempting. In the blink of an eye, winter arrived. The tribe's beastmen began to stockpile supplies. Lan Zhan led the tribe's males out to hunt. This trip lasted several days. Tonight, Lan Zhan returned again. He immediately pulled Suqing onto the stone bed. Suqing was helpless. This wolf was truly hungry. But once on the bed, Lan Zhan fell silent, lying peacefully as he had those other nights. System, what is he trying to do? The system didn't answer Suqing's question, only replying, host, please get pregnant and give birth as soon as possible. Suqing gnashed her teeth in frustration. Was it that she didn't want to get pregnant? The other party needed to take the initiative. Suqing rolled over and climbed onto him. Lan Zhan's muscles tensed. He raised his hand and tightly grasped Suqing's slender waist, preventing her from getting any closer. Suqing was furious and started moving her hands mischievously, but Lan Zhan trapped her wrists behind her back. After several unsuccessful attempts, Suqing gave up. Anyway, there's no guarantee of pregnancy, so why waste energy? Suqing closed her eyes and chose to sleep. The male beside her opened his eyes again. The amber pupils looked deeply at Suqing. A smile flashed in the corner of his eye. So eager. Should I satisfy you? Only Suqing's relaxed breathing could be heard in the cave. Lan Zhan's absence continued, and there was no movement at night. Suqing was a little worried. Little Lan Zi was active, but she didn't dare to venture too far outside. Suddenly, a wolf howl sounded. An enemy attack! The males left behind transformed into their beast forms to fight. The females in the tribe paled with fear, frantically searching for a place to hide. Suqing held little Lan Zi, and headed toward the cave. But the fighting had spread everywhere. She turned back in horror and saw a pair of amber eyes. It was Qingming! Su Qing rushed toward the cave, confused. Along the way, a female pulled her to hide, asking her to dodge. Su Qing learned that the Python tribe was attacking. Their leader, Qingming, was at the Heaven Tier Peak, and the two tribes had long-standing bad blood. Taking advantage of Lan Zhan's absence, they had launched the attack. The wolf tribe was likely doomed, and the females would probably be taken as sex slaves. Everyone was terrified. Seeing the males led by Lan Si defeated and captured, and the females' hiding place about to be exposed, Su Qing looked at the baby in her arms, then thought of Lan Zhan and Lan Ji, and decided to take a gamble. She held the baby, picked up a weapon from the ground, and walked toward Qingming, repelling those who tried to stop her along the way. Qingming saw her courage, his eyes filled with gratification. Before she reached him, he leaped forward and pulled her into his arms, his eyes filled with possession. He asked if she was willing to leave with him. Su Qing saw his eyes and knew she had gambled correctly. "Stop the fighting and I will go with you." Qingming smiled, signaling everyone to stop fighting. Su Qing walked up to the Great Priestess, entrusted the child to her, and told her that her leaving with Qingming was the way to stop the fighting, the option with the least loss. The Great Priestess looked at her with a complex expression. She hadn't expected Su Qing to step forward for the tribe. The Python tribe is notoriously cold-blooded and ruthless. This journey for you is likely a death sentence. Have you thought this through? Please take good care of the baby. When Lan Zhan returns, help me return the baby to him. After exchanging a talisman of peace for the baby, she turned to leave. Qingming saw Su Qing fulfill her promise, a cold smile curling at his lips. He reached out and wrapped his arm around Su Qing's waist. "You are mine now." Su Qing made no comment. Qingming's rank was so high, an open, sent-up tool for her to use. She was happier than Qingming was. That night, Qingming brought Su Qing to his cave. He looked at Su Qing and smiled. Suddenly, his form shifted, and a tall, handsome man appeared before her. The man had red lips and white teeth, and his white clothes emitted a gentle glow, beautiful enough to captivate Su Qing. Su Qing couldn't help but swallow. As someone who loved handsome faces, she was utterly mesmerized. Qingming noticed Su Qing's reaction and smiled slightly. "Are you satisfied with what you see?" Su Qing nodded furiously. Qingming's smile widened. He raised his hand and lifted Su Qing's chin. "I am also very satisfied with what I see. You should get used to the environment first. Tell me what you want, don't be shy." Qingming then turned and left. Su Qing snapped out of her daze, her face instantly flushing bright red. She was completely lost and looking at the handsome man. How embarrassing! Qingming returned again when it was already dark. By this time, Su Qing had already washed up and was lying on the bed. Qingming, while shedding his white clothes, walked toward the bed. Su Qing closed her eyes, waiting for what was to come, but Qingming's actions proved her wrong. Qingming raised an arm, then leaned close to Su Qing and whispered, "Sleep." Su Qing opened her eyes, listening to his rhythmic breathing beside her, slightly confused. "That's it? That's all?" She was almost ready to take her pants off, and he just told her to sleep? She closed her eyes tightly and forced herself to sleep. Qingming did this for several days in a row. Su Qing clearly felt that his breathing was shallow and quick whenever he touched her, but it quickly calmed down afterward. Su Qing stared at the fair fingers resting on her lower abdomen and drew a conclusion. This serpent man might not be up to the task. Gradually, she adapted to this mode of interaction. Su Qing was free to move around the tribe. Qingming did not restrict her freedom. However, the Python tribe beastmen were very dissatisfied with Su Qing. Attacking the White Wolf tribe had been an excellent opportunity, but their chief had abandoned the attack for a single female. Furthermore, Su Qing came from the White Wolf tribe. Was she a threat to the chief, spending every day with him? Su Qing didn't take the beastmen's exclusion to heart. In her eyes, high-ranking males were just tools for childbearing, let alone these low-ranking ones. She had a more worrying matter. Qingming hugged her every night, but it was only sleeping. The system had urged her several times to get pregnant quickly. This kind of thing takes two. Last night, she had even initiated it, but Qingming had pressed her back, telling her to sleep quietly. Su Qing was immensely frustrated. She was naturally beautiful and skilled in the arts of the bedchamber. So why wasn't it working with Qingming? Could it be that all serpent men were sexually cold? Just as she was pondering how to find her next target, she heard a suppressed call. "Su Qing!" She turned and saw Qingming. His porcelain white skin held a faint flush of red, making him look feverish. The collar of his clothes was slightly open, revealing his smooth, firm muscles. Su Qing couldn't help but swallow. "Are you sick?" Qingming saw Su Qing and staggered slightly. "I've been hit with a love flower toxin. Can you help me cure it?" Su Qing was puzzled. Qingming hesitated, then slowly explained, "The love flower can only be relieved through mating. Can your herbs help me?" He had been careless, poisoned by a female who desired him. Thinking of Su Qing's swiftness in bandaging his wounds, he hoped she might have a solution. Su Qing's eyes lit up, and she walked over eagerly. "I don't know herbs, but I can help you with the cure. Can I use my body?" Qingming's eyes flickered. Before he could react, Su Qing stood on her toes and leaned in. The fresh scent of the female made his mind even hazier. Qingming looked deeply at the startled Su Qing, then finally gave in. He swept her into his arms and carried her to the bed. Even though he was controlled by the love flower, Qingming was restrained and gentle. He raised his hand and stroked Su Qing's cheek. "If you can't bear it, tell me, and I will stop." Su Qing was caught in his gentle gaze, confused, but she nodded. She had endured Lan Zhan's roughness, so what was wrong with Qingming's gentleness? But she soon regretted it. Why didn't anyone tell her that serpent men have too? Qingming saw her expression, a smile flashing in his eyes. Quote, "Am I scaring you? I can use other methods." But Su Qing quickly stopped him. "No, you can go ahead!" Qingming's eyes flickered, and he began to move. Su Qing secretly took several restoration pills. A mere 2 of them, she could easily handle it. Qingming was increasingly surprised. He had been restraining himself for days, afraid of hurting the small female, but he never expected her to be such a delightful surprise. He completely let go, like a floodgate opening, and could no longer stop himself. Su Qing and Qingming carried on in the serpent cave for several days, day and night without ceasing. Although Su Qing relied on restoration pills to keep going, her limbs gradually began to weaken. Qingming, fueled by the spirit tear essence, couldn't stop. Fortunately, the result was good. The system, congratulations to the host for getting pregnant. The news was music to her ears. Su Qing had helped both Qingming and herself. But after they finished, Qingming was filled with guilt. How could I not control myself? What if I hurt this weak female? Su Qing sensed his guilt, raised her hand, and stroked Qingming's porcelain white skin, comforting him. "Don't worry about it." Qingming stared at her fixedly. The comforting gesture lessened his guilt somewhat. "Rest assured, I will be good to you." Su Qing nodded. She was too exhausted and quickly fell asleep. When she woke up, Qingming brought her a lot of food. Su Qing was slightly surprised, but happily accepted. She was pregnant, and her previous experience told her she would need it. "Qingming, I'm pregnant. You need to prepare more food." Qingming was stunned for a moment. Something flashed in his eyes. Then he nodded and smiled. "All right, as you say," but he didn't believe her at all. He was at the heaven-tier peak. No female could conceive his offspring. He was destined to have no descendants. Furthermore, it had only been a few nights. How could Su Qing be so sure she was pregnant? He had long investigated Su Qing and Lan Zhan and knew she hadn't conceived a child with Lan Zhan's brother. This further confirmed his suspicion. Su Qing could not be carrying his child. But he didn't want to disappoint her. "Since she's pregnant, let's solidify the relationship." Qingming abandoned his gentleness, urgently sweeping Su Qing onto the bed. Su Qing was slightly surprised but quickly accepted. Who wouldn't love such an attractive male? After Su Qing became pregnant, her appetite soared and the familiar hunger struck. Qingming was shocked at how much she could eat. Su Qing waved her hand. "I'm just eating more because I'm pregnant." But Qingming just thought she was gluttonous. When he went to the green swamp forest to forage for food, he brought her along. Along the way, Qingming carefully protected Su Qing, afraid she might get hurt. His gentle actions touched Su Qing's heart. The deeper they went, the more valuable the items. After Su Qing ate 2 ginseng roots, her hunger subsided significantly. Suddenly, a series of urgent wolf howls sounded. Qingming immediately pulled Su Qing back and cautiously scanned the surroundings. Swish, swish, swish. The thicket of thorns moved. Su Qing looked back warily and met a pair of light blue eyes. She was shocked. It was Lan Ji. He was completely under frenzy. Guilt filled Su Qing's heart. Lan Ji also recognized her and rushed toward her. Qingming frowned and was about to intervene, but Su Qing quickly stopped him. "That's Lan Ji. He won't hurt me." Watching the white wolf charge, Su Qing struggled out of Qingming's embrace. Lan Ji ran right up and immediately buried his head into Su Qing's arms, nudging her repeatedly. Su Qing raised her hand and stroked his fur. The familiar scent gradually calmed Lanji's agitated heart. Qingming was shocked to witness this. He never expected the frenzied beast to be so gentle with her. Su Qing tentatively asked Qingming, "Can he follow me?" She knew the tribe was wary of frenzied beasts. Qingming saw Lanji behaving like a large, obedient dog and nodded. "If it makes you happy." Su Qing's face was full of smiles. Qingming was momentarily distracted, a faint smile curving on his lips, but he tightly gripped Su Qing's wrist, the declaration of possession very obvious. It grew dark. The green swamp forest was too dangerous, so Qingming led Su Qing away. Lanji obediently followed behind them. Upon entering the Python tribe, Lanji's appearance immediately made the beastmen highly vigilant, and their dissatisfaction with Su Qing reached its peak. "Chief, how can you bring a white wolf into the tribe? They are our mortal enemies. This is letting the wolf into the house." The elder of the tribe was highly critical of the chief. They had missed a golden opportunity to attack the White Wolf tribe because of Su Qing, and now he was bringing a white wolf into the tribe. "Chief, you have always been stable in your actions. Now you are going too far for a female. You disappoint us greatly." The beastmen clamored for them to be driven out. Seeing Qingming in a difficult position, Su Qing tightened her grip on Qingming's arm. "Qingming, let me go." Qingming had been so good to her. She couldn't let him be abandoned by his people. Besides, she was pregnant now and had achieved her goal. The system would guarantee her safety. Su Qing had planned everything, but she didn't expect Qingming to react so strongly to her wanting to leave. He pulled her into a tight, firm embrace. Qingming looked resolutely at the elder. "I guarantee he will not harm anyone." But the beastmen were even more displeased. "Chief, you can't be rash. You can't disregard the safety of the tribe for a small female." Qingming countered. "A mere small female and a frenzied beast cause you such anxiety? How far can you go on the battlefield? Have you all forgotten the situation when we last attacked the White Wolf tribe? If the White Wolves counterattack, are you sure you can win?" Qingming's questions instantly silenced the beastmen. The elder tried to speak several times, but held back. They had indeed been caught off guard last time, and if they had killed the elderly and the weak, they would have felt ashamed too. The crowd felt a little guilty, thinking the chief had a point. What was there to fear about a mere frenzied beast? To be afraid is to lack confidence in one's own strength. Does anyone still have an opinion? Qingming effortlessly diffused the conflict. Su Qing looked at him with adoration. This beastman had looks and intelligence. It was hard not to be captivated. Qingming saw her stunned expression, thought she was frightened, and his eyes went cold. He quickly hugged her and left. Lanji followed obediently behind them. Seeing the beast so docile, the beastmen no longer voiced their opinions. Qingming placed Su Qing on the bed, lifted her chin, and asked gently, "Were you scared?" "Don't be afraid. I'm here for everything. Since you've become my female, I will protect you for life." Su Qing's eyes flickered, but her throat felt choked with cotton, unsure how to answer. Qingming only assumed she was frightened and gently comforted the small female in his arms. Qingming arranged for Lanji, looked at the small female on the bed, and thought of the tribe's attitude toward her that day. A flame of anger quickly ignited in his heart. A red glow flashed in his eyes. Suddenly his eyes widened and his body began to tremble. He was going through his serpent transformation. Why now? He endured the tearing pain in his flesh, turning to walk toward the cave entrance. But his legs gave way, and he fell heavily to his knees. The thump was heard by Su Qing. She instantly woke up and saw Qingming's trembling body. Su Qing quickly got out of bed and helped him up. "Qingming, what's wrong?" "It's nothing. I might have caught a cold." At this moment, the system alerted. The beastman is entering the serpent transformation stage. The success rate of serpent transformation is almost zero. Su Qing first helped Qingming onto the bed. Qingming quickly fell into a coma due to the pain. After an unknown time in the coma, he vaguely heard an elder scolding Su Qing. He violently woke up. "Shubai, is something wrong?" Qingming's weakness was apparent to the elders. They exchanged glances and their eyes suddenly flashed. "Qingming, did she poison you?" The elders glared at Su Qing with hostility. Qingming forced his weak body up. "No, she is very good to me." "Shubai, why do you make things difficult for her?" The red-clothed elder tentatively took a step forward. "Qingming, she has already threatened the harmony of the tribe. If you insist on this, the position of chief will be given to another beastman." Qingming's eyes flashed with a dark light. "Shubai, why do you need an excuse? I've known you've coveted my position for a long time. Qingming tore off the pretense. The red-clothed elder sneered. So what? It is indeed time for a change. Besides, your strength is not much stronger than ours. As soon as he finished speaking, a sharp sword appeared in his hand and lunged toward Qingming. Qingming knew they were trying to take advantage of his weakness and gritted his teeth, meeting the attack. Seeing this, the other beastmen also joined the fight. Su Qing watched Qingming anxiously, wanting to help but knowing her limitations. She turned and rushed out, spotting the fire near the entrance, and an idea flashed in her mind. When Su Qing rushed back in, she saw Qingming collapsed in a pool of blood. She stared at the culprits and shouted, "If you dare to hurt Qingming, none of you will live!" Su Qing threw a bucket of oil out and tossed in a spark. Boom! The flames instantly ignited. Qingming looked at Su Qing, his eyes full of worry. He gritted his teeth and charged over, protecting her. He had not expected this small female to disregard her own safety to save him. Su Qing immediately summoned Lanji, who carried Qingming and quickly fled the tribe. Seeing Qingming's weak state, Su Qing was very worried. She asked the system to find a safe place. She had Lanji carefully put Qingming down and used the moonlight to stitch his wounds. "Tell me if you feel pain, Qingming." She took a deep breath and concentrated on the stitching. Qingming looked at her with deep reluctance. He knew he wouldn't survive. Serpent transformation had never succeeded, but he couldn't bear to leave the small female, the kind small female he had first met. He raised his hand and stroked her face, wanting only to remember this moment. Su Qing was confused by Qingming's gesture. Seeing his pale face, she quickly exchanged a pill from the system and fed it to him. But Qingming told Su Qing to go find Lanjan, saying he could no longer protect her and urging her to leave quickly. She knew what Qingming meant, but she didn't want him to die, so she resolutely decided to stay. Just then, a bolt of lightning struck toward Su Qing. Before she could react, she fell into a slightly cool embrace. The lightning bolt exploded, hitting Qingming. Su Qing was both angry and anxious. She quickly gave him a few more restoration pills, but Qingming still fell into a coma due to his severe injuries. Su Qing was incredibly nervous, but she suddenly discovered a turbulent spiritual power within her. Following the system's prompts, Su Qing repeatedly cleared Qingming's meridians. After several days and nights of relentless effort, Qingming finally completed the serpent transformation successfully. Now, Qingming stood in white clothes, glowing faintly. His eyes were slightly red as he looked at Su Qing. He didn't know how to express his excitement. She had saved him again. She was his benefactor. "I'll take you back. We will reclaim what was lost. No one will ever hurt you again." When Qingming returned to the tribe with Su Qing, the tribe was already controlled by Li Yan, Fierce Flame. Li Yan had falsely accused Su Qing of killing Qingming. Just as Li Yan thought his scheme had succeeded and he was about to become the chief, Qingming suddenly appeared. He publicly exposed Li Yan's conspiracy, then transformed into his serpent form, a terrifying python, to subdue the crowd. Although Li Yan was unwilling, he was still defeated by Qingming. Qingming left Li Yan with a chilling threat before turning and leaving with Su Qing. The cave that had been consumed by fire was utterly ruined. Qingming ordered the creation of a new, more spacious and brighter cave. Su Qing was very satisfied with the new cave. Afterward, their life returned to peace. Qingming became even clingier than before, always entwining himself with Su Qing at night. Su Qing often refused, but was always beguiled by his handsome face. Su Qing's stomach grew day by day. Qingming went from shock to guilt and finally to excitement. He carefully placed his hand on Su Qing's belly, feeling the little life, constantly repeating in his heart, "This is his and Su Qing's child." So, Su Qing was right. You really are pregnant. Su Qing looked at Qingming, her eyes full of a smile. Qingming's eyes were slightly red. He hugged Su Qing tightly. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. I apologize." Su Qing shook her head, thinking that her pregnancy wasn't for the beastman's approval, but merely for points. Qingming became increasingly cautious with Su Qing, doing everything he could for her. Su Qing now had everything done for her. However, one day Qingming was very strange. He returned and kept staring at Su Qing, hesitating for a long time before finally speaking. Lan Zhan is leading the White Wolf tribe and has already reached the entrance of the Python tribe. "Do you want to see him?" Su Qing was delighted to hear this. She thought she would never see Lan Zhan again. She immediately turned and walked toward the entrance, not seeing the gray look in Qingming's eyes. In her heart, Qingming was still not as important as Lan Zhan, but Qingming followed closely. Even if he wasn't, he wouldn't let Su Qing leave. Lan Zhan stared intently at the familiar figure emerging from the tribe. He clenched his fists as he looked at Su Qing's belly. Su Qing sacrificed herself for the White Wolf tribe to marry Qingming. He closed his eyes tightly, and when he opened them, they were full of tenderness. "Su Qing, are you all right?" Lan Zhan's voice trembled. He raised his hand to touch Su Qing's fingertips, afraid it was a dream. Su Qing saw his excitement and comforted him. "I'm fine. I will take you away, all right?" Su Qing didn't answer immediately. She turned to the Qingming behind her. "I have something to say to him. Please step back." Pain flashed in Qingming's eyes. He stiffly stepped back, leaving enough space for Su Qing. Su Qing pulled Lan Zhan aside and whispered, "I can't leave with you now. Come back after I give birth to the child." Lan Zhan's eyes lit up. He said excitedly, "I will definitely come to pick you up." With that, Su Qing turned and left. Lan Zhan watched Lan Ji follow Su Qing, immediately feeling much more relieved. The White Wolf tribe beastmen felt conflicted seeing Su Qing pregnant. Su Qing endured humiliation for the tribe's sake. They only blamed themselves for being so incompetent, but the chief told them to leave, and this was Su Qing's wish. Everyone reluctantly obeyed. Qingming's smile was hard to conceal. He had thought Su Qing was going to leave. Fortunately, she chose him. Soon, the time for delivery arrived. Su Qing asked Qingming to wait at the entrance. Then, she swallowed the childbirth pill she had exchanged from the system. With the previous experience, she quickly laid a baby egg this time. The system's electronic voice rang out. "Congratulations to the host for successfully giving birth to the young one. The serpent young one is at the heaven tier peak with the water element talent. Reward to host, talent enhancement, X1, 500,000 points, 1 volume each of the AC. Swan rank cultivation method and new cultivation method, a childbirth gift package, and 1 lucky draw chance." Su Qing was thrilled, but she would soon enter false death. She quickly took out the baby supplies and wrote down the instructions, then called Lan Ji back, telling him to carry her away in case of emergency. Lan Ji obediently guarded the bed. Qingming heard the noise and came in. The moment he saw the egg, his eyes were red with excitement. But when he looked at Su Qing, his face instantly went white. Su Qing had stopped breathing and looked dead. Qingming's hands trembled as he checked her breath. Su Qing was really dead. He staggered back, his face filled with disbelief. Qingming immediately rushed out to find the Great Priestess. He couldn't let Su Qing die. Lan Ji took the opportunity to carry Su Qing on his back, dodging the beastmen, and rushed toward the green swamp forest. Lan Zhan, calculating Su Qing's due date, was already guarding the entrance of the Python tribe. Seeing Lan Ji emerge carrying Su Qing, he immediately ran over, took her, and left. Meanwhile, Qingming returned with the Great Priestess, only to see the egg and bloodstains left on the bed. His heart instantly shattered. His beloved small female was dead, and even her body had been eaten by a wild beast. Heartbroken, he wanted to follow her in death. Just then, the eggshell cracked, and a little serpent crawled out. Qingming looked at the little serpent Su Qing had given birth to. It was the top combat power of the tribe from birth. This was their only child. He vowed to raise the child well. But apart from being good to the child, Qingming was distraught. The tribe's beastmen sensed the chief's mood, their feelings complicated. When they learned that the little serpent Su Qing gave birth to was at the heaven tier, they regretted that she had died too soon to give the chief more serpents, and they regretted calling her a curse and opposing the chief's decision not to attack the White Wolf tribe. They now realized Su Qing's value was greater than attacking the White Wolf tribe. That was a serpent, powerful from birth, and with diligent cultivation, it could become a true dragon. Even as a mere serpent, it was a height difficult for beastmen to reach. But it was too late for everything, and they could only lament, treating the little serpent well. When Su Qing woke up, she was in the White Wolf tribe. Opening her eyes, she saw Lan Zhan by her side. He had lost a lot of weight, and his sapphire blue eyes were slightly dull. When they met Su Qing's bright eyes, his eyes immediately shone, even brighter than when she left. "Su Qing, I'm sorry. I didn't protect you well, and I shouldn't have doubted you." Lan Zhan hugged Su Qing tightly, yet afraid of hurting her. Even his speech was incoherent. Su Qing felt his emotion and gently patted his back. "It's okay. I'm back." Su Qing looked at Lan Zhan. The man, as sturdy as an iron tower, was now crying like a tearful person. Lan Zhan asked with red eyes, "Did he bully you?" The mention of Qingming made Lanzhan gnash his teeth. Su Qing gently shook her head. He was very good to me. Lanzhan was a little jealous. What about me? Su Qing raised an eyebrow and smiled at him. Lanzhan's ears and neck flushed completely red. You are all very good. Lanzhan was even more jealous, but Su Qing had just woken up, and he didn't want to tire her out. Soon, the news of Su Qing's return spread throughout the tribe. The next day, when she went out, the tribe's beastmen looked at her with kindness. They were all very grateful to her for saving their lives before. Su Qing was now very popular, surrounded by beastmen wherever she went. Lan Ji watched Su Qing surrounded by beastmen. Unable to get close, his emotions gradually became uncontrollable. Suddenly, his eyes turned scarlet, radiating the ferocity of a wild beast. Su Qing saw this and quickly rushed over, hugging Lan Ji tightly and soothing him with her spiritual power. Lan Ji gradually calmed down, affectionately rubbing against Su Qing. Everyone was stunned, especially the Great Priestess, who was utterly astonished. She stared at Su Qing. Su Qing, do you want to test your talent? The Great Priestess had completely forgotten the scene where she had previously scorned Su Qing, saying she had no talent and didn't need to be tested. Su Qing patted Lan Ji, and after ensuring his emotions were stable, she went to take the test. Lanzhan rushed over anxiously after hearing the news, a little worried as he recalled his previous misunderstanding. Su Qing placed her hand on the talent testing stone. The moment she did, a dazzling white light burst forth. Everyone was stunned. When they recovered, the beastmen below erupted in excitement. The Great Priestess was shaken, realizing Su Qing was the first female in the tribe to possess a talent. Although she couldn't discern what Su Qing's talent was, she guessed it was the ability to soothe the emotions of frenzied beastmen. The implication was immense, as all male beasts eventually succumbed to frenzy. However, the other beastmen who heard about her talent considered it minor, believing that simply soothing emotions couldn't fundamentally change the outcome of a beastman's inevitable frenzy, and that her success with Lan Ji was likely just a coincidence, given his deep devotion to her. In the blink of an eye, the day arrived for the Leopard tribe's duel to select a new chief. Since the White Wolf tribe and the Leopard tribe were on good terms, Lanzhan was invited and brought Su Qing along, not feeling safe leaving her alone. At the Leopard tribe, Lanzhan was given the seat of honor, and Su Qing was treated well. The contest began. Su Qing didn't like the clamor and the gore. She glanced once and looked away. Suddenly, a scream rang out. Su Qing looked up to see a girl, Lai Yang, fierce sun, with black hair and black eyes, enveloped in black energy. She roared and transformed into a frenzied beast, charging toward the crowd. The beastmen scattered in terror, shouting, Lai Yang has gone into frenzy. Quick, restrain him! Su Qing looked at the black energy surrounding Lai Yang, frowning deeply, and moved against the flow toward Lai Yang. Her action completely stunned everyone. The Leopard tribe beastmen were confused and shocked. Is this little female crazy? A heaven-tier frenzied Lai Yang will tear her apart. The White Wolf tribesmen also cried out anxiously. Su Qing is too overconfident. Does she think if she can control Lan Ji, she can control Lai Yang? Lanzhan saw Su Qing rushing to the front and his face turned ashen. Lai Yang was slowly transforming into a savage beast. Seeing Su Qing standing in front of him, he roared and lunged at Su Qing like a sharp sword. Lanzhan gasped. Su Qing, however, did not move, staring intently at the charging Li Yang. She suddenly raised her hand. The wildly rushing Li Yang abruptly stopped, staring fixedly at Su Qing. Su Qing tentatively raised her hand and placed it on his head. Quote, "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you." Just when everyone thought Su Qing would be instantly killed, the black leopard obediently lay down at Su Qing's feet. Su Qing quietly soothed Li Yang, and gradually, Lai Yang returned to his human form. Su Qing finally breathed a sigh of relief. Li Yang opened his eyes and looked at Su Qing with excitement. Now everyone was completely dumbfounded. Su Qing could restore a frenzied, savage beast back to a human form. Hope suddenly rose in their hearts. Su Qing is our goddess! Amidst the cheers of the crowd, Su Qing suddenly fainted due to the exhaustion of her spiritual power. Lanzhan and Lan Ji immediately carried Su Qing and returned to the tribe. Lai Yang, who had regained consciousness, was both grateful and guilty, and determined to have her so he would never have to worry about frenzy again. The old chief, fearing a relapse, had the beastmen restrain Lai Yang. Stay in the tribe for observation first. I will go find her then. I want her to be my female. Just then, Lai Yang from the neighboring village came to their door again. Su Qing, I am willing to join your household. I hope you will accept me. Su Qing asked the system refused, stating that Li Yang was currently only at the Earth tier peak and absolutely could not conceive high-grade offspring. Upon hearing Li Yang's proposition, Lan Zhan's sapphire blue eyes deepened. He stared fixedly at Li Yang. Su Qing does not need any male to join her household. Lan Ji also struggled up from the ground, glaring fiercely at Li Yang, his disapproval obvious. Li Yang was unmoved by the attitudes of Lan Zhan and Lan Ji, his eyes shining as he focused on Su Qing. Su Qing shook her head. I'm sorry, I really don't need anyone to join my household. Li Yang's black eyes gradually dimmed. He was in the late stages of frenzy, and without Su Qing's spiritual soothing, he didn't know if he would be so lucky during the next episode. But Su Qing had refused him. Li Yang left with great difficulty, but he did not go far. He constantly hovered around the White Wolf tribe. Initially, Lan Ji was wary of him and prevented him from getting close to Su Qing. But seeing that Li Yang did not enter the tribe, Lan Ji grew lazy and simply sprawled out near Su Qing. Every day, Li Yang could see Su Qing surrounded by the males. His gaze settled on the small female. With a straight back and a fair, gentle face, she spoke softly about how to make salt and taught everyone how to find the proper earth for building houses. Every word carried immense magical power, making it impossible for him to look away. He deeply admired this little female. She knew more than the great priestess of the leopard tribe. Though frail, her knowledge was powerful, and he became increasingly fascinated. Li Yang knew he could not wait passively. He began to act. He inquired about Su Qing's preferences in the White Wolf tribe, and learned she liked rare and precious treasures. He entered the green swamp forest's interior to search for the things she needed. At first, Su Qing refused to accept them. He claimed they were to repay her kindness for saving his life. Su Qing looked at the good things and accepted them without hesitation. However, as Li Yang sent more and more, Su Qing knew his intentions weren't simple. If you want me to help you with spiritual soothing, you can exchange these things for it. Li Yang's eyes brightened. Although this had been his plan, he also genuinely longed to see Su Qing. Now that she had said so, Li Yang looked up, staring at Su Qing, his eyes shining. Can I really? Su Qing nodded. Before Li Yang could move, she raised her hand and placed it on his wrist. A warm sensation came through. Li Yang stared at the small female's gentle profile, and his mood gradually stabilized. Li Yang improved day by day, but Su Qing became increasingly exhausted. The male beastmen saw Su Qing's condition and felt remorse. Su Qing was soothing them, but to upgrade her own spiritual power faster, as long as she had a shred of energy left, she would continue to soothe the unstable males. However, after each session, Su Qing would fall into a deep sleep. Every time Lan Ji saw Su Qing collapse, his eyes were filled with worry and dissatisfaction, but also intense jealousy toward the males Su Qing treated so gently. Li Yang always found ways to distract Lan Ji and ask Su Qing for spiritual soothing. Su Qing's soothing worked. The frenzy symptoms on Li Yang completely vanished. Li Yang felt an infinite power surging upwards in his body. He knew he was about to upgrade. He was reluctant to leave Su Qing. As he departed, he stared intently at her, his eyes full of tenderness. Su Qing, if I succeed in my promotion, I will definitely come back for you. Su Qing was happy for him and nodded, watching him leave. Li Yang could not delay. He returned to the tribe and asked the old chief of the leopard tribe to guard him. The old chief, thrilled by his son's imminent breakthrough, watched eagerly. Li Yang closed his eyes, allowing the powerful airflow to circulate through his body. Suddenly, the smooth flow of energy was blocked. He reacted too slowly and the energy instantly shot up, coursing uncontrollably through his limbs. Li Yang opened his eyes. A red light flashed, and his body transformed into a leopard. He roared, thrashing wildly. The old chief was terrified. Staring at Li Yang, he knew his son had succumbed to frenzy. The old chief tried to stop Li Yang, but he was no match for the frenzied beast. The remaining beastmen rushed in, horrified to see Li Yang transforming into a savage beast. Quickly! Go to the White Wolf tribe and fetch Su Qing! Hurry! The old chief commanded, fighting off Li Yang's attacks. The beastmen, terrified by Li Yang's actions, quickly rushed to the White Wolf tribe. Lan Zhan and Lan Ji were not in the White Wolf tribe, so the leopard tribe beastmen met Su Qing directly. Hearing it was Li Yang's frenzy, Su Qing did not hesitate and followed them. The people of the White Wolf tribe were slightly displeased. Su Qing was their tribe's treasure. How could they just ask her to leave? But since Su Qing agreed, they could not stop her. When Su Cheng arrived at the leopard tribe, the beastmen were already waiting. Seeing Su Cheng, they looked at her with excitement. "Su Cheng, I'm afraid my unworthy son will trouble you." The old chief's heart was fluttering, but he suppressed his emotions and greeted Su Cheng courteously. "Where is Lai Yang?" Su Cheng asked. Seeing Su Cheng's directness, the old chief abandoned his plan to exchange pleasantries and led Su Cheng into the cave. Su Cheng heard the sound of the leopard's claws scraping the ground inside, frowned slightly, and walked in step by step. The old chief followed closely, afraid that the frenzied Li Yang might harm Su Cheng. She was Li Yang's only hope, and nothing could go wrong. Su Cheng walked forward steadily and saw Lai Yang staring at her vigilantly, his eyes blood red, clearly worse than last time. "Lai Yang, come here," Su Cheng commanded softly. Lai Yang remained still, instead leaning forward into an attacking posture, staring at Su Cheng. If Su Cheng took one more step, he would bite her. Su Cheng took a deep breath. "Old chief, Lai Yang's situation does not look optimistic." The old chief's heart sank. He looked at Lai Yang with complex emotions. Su Cheng had given him hope last time. He thought she could save Lai Yang this time too. He did not want to lose his son. Seeing the old chief's eyes redden, Su Cheng gritted her teeth and spoke. "Don't worry, I will do my best." Without waiting for the old chief's reaction, Su Cheng quickly stepped forward. Before Li Yang could react, she reached out and covered his eyes. The warm touch and familiar scent rushed into Lai Yang's senses. His rapid breathing gradually calmed down, and his tense muscles slowly relaxed. Su Cheng sighed in relief, as did the old chief. He watched Su Cheng with gratitude, afraid Lai Yang would suddenly attack her. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. Su Cheng sent her spiritual power into Lai Yang's meridians. This spiritual power was immediately obstructed, not allowing her to advance further. Su Cheng opened her eyes, looking at Li Yang with a complicated expression. The old chief nervously asked, "Is something wrong?" "It might take some time. Lai Yang's frenzy this time is more complex." The old chief sighed with relief. As long as he could be soothed, time was not an issue. "Su Cheng, what do I need to prepare? Just tell me." The old chief was extremely cooperative, not questioning whether Su Cheng could soothe him, but immediately asking what to prepare. The meaning was clear. No matter how long it took, Su Cheng must soothe Lai Yang. Su Cheng looked deeply at the old chief and understood his heart as a father. "Prepare a large amount of rare and precious treasures," Su Cheng said, then closed her eyes. The old chief backed out and had the beastmen bring out the best things in the tribe. Su Cheng remained with her eyes closed for a long time. The old chief's breathing quieted, and his body grew increasingly tense. Finally, Li Yang opened his eyes. He stared at Su Cheng, a golden light flashing in his eyes. He tried to transform back into his human form, but found he couldn't. Anxiety flashed in his eyes. Su Cheng sensed his worry and opened her eyes. "I finally managed to soothe your emotions. You must not get excited again, or I won't be able to help you next time." Su Cheng's words were like a bucket of ice water, chilling Lai Yang to the core. He took several deep breaths and obediently lay his head on Su Cheng's lap. Su Cheng raised her hand and stroked his fur. Li Yang comfortably narrowed his eyes. "If you want to advance, follow my spiritual power." Lai Yang looked up at Su Cheng, puzzled, but he wanted to advance. "I will listen to you." Su Cheng closed her eyes, and Li Yang followed suit. Su Cheng's spiritual power coursed through Li Yang's meridians, leading him to explore deeper. This time, the meridians were much smoother. Lai Yang closed his eyes and did not open them again. However, Lai Yang's condition was too severe. Energy was crashing wildly within his body. Su Cheng had to spend several times her usual spiritual power just to soothe a little. Her spiritual power was quickly depleting. Su Cheng felt dizzy and took the rare and precious treasures beside her, chewing them. Energy filled her own meridians again, and her spiritual power was somewhat replenished. While chewing the treasures, she continued to open Li Yang's meridians. Su Cheng withdrew her spiritual power. She knew Li Yang would succeed this time. Su Cheng carefully moved her body. She had only stood up and taken 2 steps when her legs suddenly felt weak, and she fell toward the ground. The old chief was startled and rushed over to support Su Cheng. He ordered a beast man to prepare a resting place. "I'm hungry. Please ask the chief to prepare some food." The old chief looked at his son, nodded understandingly, and asked Su Cheng to wait a moment. The food would be ready soon. Su Cheng ate her fill and fell into a deep sleep, telling the old chief to just watch over her and that Lai Yang would succeed this time. The old chief's hands trembled with excitement. He watched Su Qing with her eyes closed, not daring to disturb her, standing at the cave entrance like a statue, guarding her. After Su Qing was sound asleep, Li Yang opened his eyes. A circle of energy surged around his body, which was now filled with power. He knew he had successfully advanced. He was incredibly grateful to Su Qing and wanted to share his joy with her. "You succeeded," the old chief said in a low voice, staring intently at his son. Li Yang also saw Su Qing's quiet, sleeping face. "What's wrong with Su Qing?" he asked, a little worried. He walked to the bedside and tightly grasped Su Qing's hand. The familiar, warm touch washed over him, and his heart settled. "She's tired. She said you would succeed. I didn't expect it to be true. She is amazing. Your success this time is all thanks to Su Qing," the old chief lamented. Lai Yang knew in his heart more than anyone else that without Su Qing, he would have succumbed to frenzy and failed to advance. Li Yang listened as his father recounted the dangers of his advancement and how Su Qing had helped. He was moved. With Su Qing's help, his cultivation speed was much faster than what he could achieve on his own. He stared at Su Qing's quiet, sleeping face, his eyes full of determination. "Father, Su Qing is no ordinary small female. She can help me advance. With her help, I will surely become the strongest male in the tribe." The old chief fully agreed with his son. The father and son looked at each other, their gaze finally resting on Su Qing's face. "She is, after all, a female of the White Wolf tribe. We cannot keep her indefinitely." The old chief's words made Lai Yang's heart sink. He tightened his grip on Su Qing's hand. "She is very kind. Why don't we take advantage of her kindness and keep her in the leopard tribe?" The old chief's eyes lit up. "Yes, we will provide her with the best food and housing. And you can occasionally feign frenzy, preventing her from leaving the leopard tribe. That way, we can keep her." Lai Yang thought this was the best plan. Just as he was excitedly gripping her hand, the hand in his moved. He looked up, meeting Su Qing's clear yet cold gaze. "So my kindness is so worthless?" Su Qing's voice was filled with sarcasm. Lai Yang's heart stopped. He immediately looked away. "Su Qing, let me explain!" Su Qing didn't give him the chance. She struggled to support herself and stood up. Lai Yang reached out to help her, but Su Qing immediately swatted his hand away. "Your talent is very good. You no longer need me to clear your meridians for you. From now on, you don't need to come looking for me anymore." A shadow of hostility flashed in Lai Yang's eyes. He stared fixedly at Su Qing. "I just want to possess you. All other males can receive your soothing. Why can't I?" Su Qing remained silent, only staring at him. Finally, she shook her head and left. She was kind, but not a saint. To be so openly schemed against by a beast man, she would have to be heartless not to feel any resentment. Lai Yang watched Su Qing's departing back, his fists tightly clenched. He was unwilling to give up. Su Qing should belong only to him. What right did those other males have to receive Su Qing's soothing? He would not give up on Su Qing. Su Qing returned to the White Wolf tribe and met Lan Zhan, who had come out looking for her. "Su Qing, are you all right?" Lan Zhan saw Su Qing's pale face and was displeased. Su Qing shook her head and leaned exhaustedly into Lan Zhan's arms. "I'm tired. Just carry me back to rest." Lan Zhan gritted his teeth, having already learned what happened, and knowing Su Qing had been soothing Li Yang. He looked down at Su Qing, his eyes full of heartache. He carefully bent down and picked up Su Qing, walking with steady steps toward the White Wolf cave. The next day, Lai Yang showed up at the door, bringing a lot of food and crystals. Lan Zhan stood at the tribe's entrance, staring coldly at him. "Su Qing said she doesn't want to see you. Leave." A dark look flashed in Li Yang's eyes. "Su Qing saved me. I just want to thank her in person. I won't hurt her. Just let me see her." Lan Zhan stared at the objects in his hand. "The White Wolf tribe is not lacking in these things. Go back." Lan Zhan finished speaking, turned and left, instructing a beastman to politely ask Lai Yang to leave. Lai Yang clenched his fists, looking at the cave where Su Qing lived, determined not to give up easily. A few days later, Lai Yang came again. This time, he saw Su Qing from a distance. He raised his hand to greet her. Su Qing merely glanced at him and didn't respond. Lan Ji, who was beside her, growled a warning at him. Lai Yang felt a pang in his heart and glared at Lan Ji. He wouldn't admit he was jealous. He just wanted Su Qing. He admired her ability. The next few times, Lai Yang was always unsuccessful. Once, he even got into a fight with Lan Ji. After being injured, Lai Yang was quiet for a while. Su Qing recovered and, unable to get used to living in the cave, made her own charcoal pen. She exchanged some white paper from the system and began to draw. The mud bricks she had made before came in handy. Lan Zhan quietly guarded her side, filled with curiosity. Su Qing drew the specifications for a simple farmhouse courtyard, marking all the details. After everything was finished, she looked at Lan Zhan with confidence. Lan Zhan blushed under her gaze. "I need to ask you to do something for me." Lan Zhan swallowed. "Night, day, whatever you choose." Su Qing rolled her eyes. "I want to build a house. Get those dirty thoughts out of your head." Lan Zhan was a little disappointed. It had been a long time since he'd been intimate with the small female. Lan Zhan followed Su Qing's instructions, gathered the males, and showed everyone the method and blueprint for building the house. The males were willing to spoil Su Qing and did whatever she asked. Su Qing asked them to dig the foundation. The male beastmen were strong, and the outline was completed in less than an hour. Felling trees was even faster. Su Qing didn't have to worry at all. There were many trees near the White Wolf tribe entrance, and several were brought back quickly. Su Qing asked everyone to strip the bark and let them dry for a few days. For now, they started building the walls. Su Qing wanted to participate, but the males wouldn't hear of it, only allowing her to stand aside and direct. If anything was unsatisfactory, they would adjust it. Su Qing was helpless and could only listen to them. With many strong males, 3 walls of the house were up by the afternoon. Su Qing was excited and thrilled. She drew another blueprint, asking the idle males in the tribe to start building a tribal wall. Their previous walls were made of wood and were not sturdy at all. If another tribe attacked, they would be burned down quickly. Su Qing's suggestion was approved by the chief, Lan Zhan, and they began to act. In half a month, the White Wolf tribe had undergone tremendous changes. Su Qing also used the remaining wood to make many trebuchets. Not long after the tribe was rebuilt, the Black Bear tribe came to attack. As expected, with the strong tribal wall and the trebuchets, the Black Bear tribe was beaten back decisively. After this battle, Su Qing's prestige in the tribe grew even higher. She had become a hero in their hearts. Afterward, Su Qing also dedicated herself to studying herbal formulas, helping everyone condition their bodies and improve fertility. Recently, the females were using a lot of medicine, and Su Qing had run out of her stockpiled herbs. She planned to search for some outside the White Wolf tribe. Lai Yang, who had been guarding the White Wolf tribe for a long time, saw Su Qing, his eyes shining. He leaped several times and arrived behind Su Qing. Su Qing heard the movement and was startled. She raised the weapon in her hand and moved to stab him. "Su Qing, it's me!" the familiar voice rang out. Lai Yang transformed into his human form, looking at Su Qing with excitement. "I've waited for you for a long time. We finally meet." Su Qing saw it was Lai Yang, her expression not softening. She put away her weapon, her attitude cold. "I told you we wouldn't bother each other. Leave." Li Dina was stung by Su Qing's cold attitude, his heart heavy. "Su Qing, I didn't harm you. You can't treat me like this. But you schemed against me." Su Qing didn't want to waste words on him and turned to walk in another direction. Lai Yang chased after her several times, trying to talk, but Su Qing chose to ignore him. A shadow of malice flashed in Lai Yang's eyes. He reached out to wrap his arm around Su Qing's waist. Suddenly, a movement sounded behind him. He turned his head vigilantly, meeting Lan Zhan's gaze. "What are you trying to do?" Lan Zhan asked coldly. Lai Yang's face stiffened and he forced a smile. "I'm her male. The green swamp forest is too dangerous for a female. I will protect her." Lai Yang tried to excuse himself. Lan Zhan gave a scornful laugh and quickly walked to Su Qing's side, tightly wrapping his arm around her waist and pulling her into his embrace. "No need. I protect my own female." Su Qing glared at Lan Zhan, whose cold expression instantly softened. "I hunted your favorite venison this time. Let's go back and eat." Hearing the mention of food, Su Qing's face brightened. She tugged Lan Zhan away in a hurry. Lai Yang stared at Su Qing and Lan Zhan's interlocked hands, his fists tightly clenched. Su Qing and Lan Zhan returned to the tribe and were slightly surprised by the food on the ground. "You're amazing. That's a lot. Enough to eat for a while." Praised by the small female, Lan Zhan proudly tilted his head back, his face beaming with happiness. "As long as you like it." Su Qing jokingly glared at Lan Zhan. If he were in his wolf form, his tail would be wagging in the sky. Su Qing started to clean the meat, planning a barbecue. Lan Zhan couldn't bear to let Su Qing do the work, quickly pulling her away. He started cutting and skewering the meat according to her instructions. The beastmen followed suit, getting ready. The White Wolf tribe was bustling with activity. The cold winter couldn't dampen their enthusiasm. Lai Yang stood at the tribe's entrance, watching Su Qing and Lan Zhan by the fire. Su Qing, feeling cold, was nestled in Lan Zhan's arms, looking delicate, cute, and charmingly smiley. The two beastmen even shared a skewer of meat. Su Qing's green lips were stained with grease, and Lan Zhan gently licked it away with his own lips. Su Qing squinted her eyes in enjoyment. But all this tenderness was directed at other males. Su Qing only ever gave him cold glances. Lai Yang was going insane with jealousy, wishing he could take Lan Zhan's place. The thought flashed in his mind, and he gave a cold laugh. He turned, transformed into his beast form, and disappeared into the green swamp forest. After the food was consumed, Lan Zhan went out hunting again. Su Qing, as always, went searching for herbs. She wanted to hoard more herbs before the snow started. She had just stepped out when she saw Lan Zhan carrying food back. Su Qing looked at him, surprised. "You're so fast this time." Lan Zhan's eyes flickered. He tentatively reached out and took Su Qing's hand. Su Qing did not resist. Lan Zhan sighed in relief, his smile widening. "I missed you." Lan Zhan rarely said sweet things, and Su Qing was momentarily stunned. Meeting Lan Zhan's smiling sapphire blue eyes, Su Qing raised her hand and poked his nose. "It seems you really did miss me. You're saying things you usually wouldn't." Lan Zhan's body tensed for a moment, the warmth of Su Qing's fingertip lingering on his nose. He looked deeply at Su Qing. "Let's go back!" Su Qing tugged Lan Zhan forward. Lan Zhan stared at Su Qing's back, then lowered his gaze to their clasped hands, the smile in his eyes deepening. Su Qing told Lan Zhan to rest, but he refused, asking Su Qing what she wanted to eat. Since she had plenty of food these past 2 days, Su Qing didn't want anything specific. Lan Zhan decided to roast some meat. Su Qing didn't object. Lan Zhan's technique for cutting and skewering the meat was a little clumsy. Su Qing laughed at him. "You've been in the forest for days, and you've forgotten how to cut meat." Lan Zhan's fingertip trembled, and he shook his head with a smile. "It's cold, and my fingers are a bit stiff." Su Qing didn't think much of it, just telling him to take his time. She wasn't hungry. Lan Zhan nodded. With the meat on the grill, Lan Zhan walked over to Su Qing. Certain images flashed in his mind. He tentatively put his arm around Su Qing's waist. Seeing that Su Qing did not resist or show discomfort, Lan Zhan's stiff body gradually relaxed. He lowered his head, breathing in the familiar scent. His heart was extremely excited. The skewers were ready. He offered one to Su Qing. Su Qing reached out, but he pulled back. "It's hot. I'll feed you." Su Qing did not notice the nervousness in Lan Zhan's voice. She took a bite, squinting her eyes in satisfaction. Lan Zhan looked at the small teeth marks left by the small female and consciously swallowed. He ate the rest of the meat in one bite. Su Qing teased him with a smile. "The meat I've eaten tastes better, huh?" Lan Zhan nodded. It's delicious." Su Qing laughed and nestled into Lan Zhan's arms. Lan Zhan looked down at Su Qing's moist lips, his Adam's apple bobbing. He tentatively lowered his head, and seeing that Su Qing did not refuse, he kissed her boldly. The longing fragrance and touch provided a satisfaction he had never known. Su Qing felt his breathing become heavier. She raised her hand and twisted his waist. "Control yourself, later tonight." Lan Zhan's abdomen softened instantly, and he groaned, hearing her say tonight. He became excited again. He looked fixedly at Su Qing. "You're not lying to me?" Su Qing looked at him strangely. "Is this something to lie about?" Lan Zhan was thrilled. He quickly grilled the meat, ensuring Su Qing ate her fill. As soon as darkness fell, Lan Zhan eagerly carried Su Qing into the house. Su Qing saw how excited Lan Zhan was, and only thought it was, because he had been in the forest for a long time and missed her. She raised her hand and touched Lan Zhan's slightly tensed muscles, her eyes full of a smile. "Even if you're holding back, you still need to be careful. If you dare to hurt me, see if I don't punish you." Lan Zhan's lowered eyes turned black for an instant, then quickly returned to their sapphire blue. He spoke in a hoarse voice, looking at Su Qing. "I won't. I'll be gentle." With that, Lan Zhan eagerly moved closer. Su Qing could feel Lan Zhan's restraint, and just as he said, he was very gentle. This bout of passion was unstoppable for Lan Zhan. Su Qing had to take 2 pills to withstand Lan Zhan's enthusiasm. When the sky finally brightened, the male finally stopped. He tightly held the small female in his arms. She was finally his. Even though this time was stolen, he didn't regret it. The blackness in Lan Zhan's eyes grew stronger, then finally turned back to sapphire blue. For the next few days, Lanjan became incredibly clingy, wrapped around Suqing day and night. Suqing asked him about it curiously. "I have to go into the green swamp forest to hunt in a couple of days. I'm taking the time to spend more time with you." Lanzan replied, staring intently at Suqing, afraid she would suspect something. Suqing smiled and indulged him. The temperature was dropping daily, and she was too lazy to move anyway. Lanzan left the house and walked toward the edge of the White Wolf tribe. Not far into the green swamp forest, his figure shifted, and a fierce leopard appeared in the woods. This was not Lanjan. It was clearly Lai Yang in disguise. It turned out that to get Suqing, Lai Yang had used an illusion pill to transform into Lanjan's likeness, spending days and nights intimately with Suqing. On the other side, he had asked his father to find a way to hinder Lanjan. He had originally intended to kill Lanzan, but Lanzan's strength was too great. He could only barely manage to have the beastman delay him, seizing more opportunities to be with Suqing. He had planned to secretly enjoy a few days of happiness and then leave, but soon after, Suqing became pregnant. Lai Yang was both overjoyed and extremely uneasy. He was afraid Suqing would hate him and refuse to carry his child if she knew he wasn't Lanjan. He truly did not want to lose this happiness. Even when he received a message from his subordinate informing him that Lanjan was missing, Lai Yang was still reluctant to leave. Late that night, amidst the sounds of heavy breathing, a cold voice suddenly rang out. "How dare you impersonate me?" A sudden gust of wind attacked. The two people on the unmade bed quickly separated. The candlelight instantly illuminated the room. Suqing saw Lanjan standing at the doorway, her eyes wide. She looked at the Nanjan standing beside her, his clothes half off, and was completely confused. Why were there two Lanzans? At this moment, Lanzan's gaze swept over Suqing's fair shoulder, and fury consumed his reason. "Who are you? Why are you impersonating me?" Lanzan lunged toward Lai Yang. After being hit, Lai Yang could no longer maintain his transformed appearance. Suqing saw Lai Yang's face, shocked and angry. "Why did you deceive me?" A dark light flashed in Lai Yang's eyes. He rushed toward Suqing. "Suqing, come with me! I will explain everything!" Suqing was utterly disappointed in Liang. Just as Liang's arm was about to touch her, she instinctively moved away from him, letting Lanji carry her away and quickly vanish. Lai Yang watched Suqing leave, a dull pain in his heart. "Suqing, come back! Listen to me!" Suqing heard Lai Yang's voice, filled with disgust. She had been deceived by Liang and was carrying his child. She thought her fertility had been upgraded. She never expected Lai Yang to take advantage of the situation. "How despicable!" Lai Yang shouted loudly and ran to follow, but Lanjan would never give him the chance. He slammed his fist, full of chilling, killing intent. He and Lanjan began to fight. Lanjan was enraged, and his strength was superior to Lai Yang's. After dozens of rounds, Lai Yang was beaten until his face was bruised and his body was covered in injuries. Lai Yang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, looking at Lanzan with malicious intent. "You wait for me! I'll be back eventually!" Lai Yang transformed into a leopard and quickly disappeared from the White Wolf tribe. Lanjan wanted to chase him, but his speed was no match for Lai Yang's, and the other male escaped. Lai Yang returned to the leopard tribe, covered in injuries. The old chief was startled by his appearance. "Who did you provoke? How did you end up like this?" Lai Yang tightly clenched his fists. He resented Lanjan, resented that he could have Suqing, and even more so, resented his heaven-tier strength. "Father, I'm going to be a father!" Lai Yang finished the sentence and completely collapsed into a coma. The old chief didn't have time to process the joy before being overwhelmed by Lai Yang's collapse. Meanwhile, Lanzan found Suqing. Seeing her self-reproachful expression, he comforted her. "It's not your fault. He took an illusion pill. If I hadn't appeared, you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference." Suqing lowered her head guiltily. Lanzan tightly embraced her. "It's all right. I'm back. I won't let him have another chance." Suqing listened to Lanjan's comforting words, her heart incredibly complicated. Lanzan was indeed a good toolman, but I'm pregnant with his child. Lanzan's heart ached. This was the second time Suqing had become pregnant with another male's child, and both times were against her will. He gently patted Suqing's back, soothing her gently. "It doesn't matter. The White Wolf tribe has few beastmen. Raising one more is fine. I just need you by my side." Suqing's eyes reddened. This male's generosity was wider than she had imagined. From then on, the two never mentioned Li Yang again. However, Lai Yang wouldn't stop. He came looking for trouble. At first, Su Qing didn't realize it was Lai Yang, only that a lot of rare and precious treasures were being left at the entrance without any note. Su Qing assumed they were gifts from the males in the tribe, as she often received tokens of thanks. She accepted these few times gladly, but soon she realized they weren't from the tribe's beastmen. She saw that hateful figure. "What are you doing here?" Su Qing's tone was full of disgust. A fleeting look of hurt flashed in Lai Yang's eyes. He stared at Su Qing's belly. "You need good food. I'm bringing you food." Su Qing firmly refused. "No need. The tribe has plenty of food for me." "Go away! I don't want to see you!" Su Qing turned away coldly. Lai Yang's heart burned with pain. He saw the blatant disgust in Su Qing's eyes. Su Qing thought that after this incident, Li Yang would surely be too ashamed to return. She was wrong. The next day, Lai Yang appeared at the entrance again, with more rare and precious treasures. Su Qing didn't even spare him a glance, treating him like air. Lai Yang didn't say a word. He looked at Su Qing, then turned and disappeared into the woods. Lai Yang came several times, and each time Su Qing ignored him. He was even caught by Lan Zhan twice, and each time Lan Zhan beat him. He didn't fight back, just stood there foolishly and let Lan Zhan hit him. After a while, Lan Zin also found it pointless, just telling him to scram. But Lai Yang was determined. He appeared every day without fail. He didn't get close, just watched Su Qing from a distance and sent her rare treasures. Su Qing initially refused, but as her appetite grew and the temperature dropped, making food scarce, she began to accept the gifts. She also tacitly allowed Lai Yang to follow her from afar. The child was his, so his actions were reasonable. Lai Yang knew Su Qing would go out to gather herbs even in the snow. He often guarded the White Wolf tribe's entrance. Whenever Su Qing went out, he cautiously followed. But afraid of making her angry, he only dared to trail her from a distance. Today, just as he followed Su Qing back to the White Wolf tribe's entrance, the old chief stopped him. "Lai Yang, how long are you going to be this stubborn? She doesn't like you at all." The leopard tribe's old chief looked at his son with complex feelings. Su Qing was an invaluable treasure, but if his son couldn't win her heart, everything was futile. Lai Yang did not speak, his eyes fixed on Su Qing's back. The old chief sighed repeatedly. "I have already found a suitable female for you in the tribe. Come back with me and get engaged." Lai Yang looked at his father in disbelief. The persistence in the old chief's eyes made Lai Yang panic. He looked at Su Qing again. Su Qing walked on determinedly, not even sparing him a glance. Lai Yang was furious. He quickly ran towards Su Qing. "Su Qing, why can't you just look at me? What am I lacking? I don't mind you having Lan Zhan. I can follow you." Su Qing looked up, directly meeting Lai Yang's gaze, and shook her head, refusing him. "But I don't need you." Su Qing's words pierced Lai Yang's heart like a sharp sword. He looked at Su Qing's mercilessly departing back, utterly enraged. He had been so humble, yet Su Qing hadn't been moved in the slightest. The old chief looked at his disappointing son, feeling ashamed. "It's just a female. Is it worth all this?" Lai Yang's eyes gradually faded to a desolate gray. His straight back slumped. "I'll go back with you." This time, Lai Yang had an element of spite in his decision. Lai Yang returned to the tribe, and the old chief was happy, thinking he had come to his senses. However, not only did Lai Yang refuse to get engaged, but he also drove away the female the old chief had found for him and her relatives. The old chief was so angry, he almost physically attacked his son. Lai Yang looked at the old chief. "Father, if you had possessed such an excellent female as Su Qing, would you still look for other females?" The old chief was stumped by this question. He looked at Lai Yang and finally let him go, but only gave him one last chance. If Su Qing still didn't welcome him this time, Lai Yang had to obediently return and settle down. Lai Yang neither agreed nor disagreed. He left the leopard tribe resolutely. Lai Yang searched for many rare and precious treasures to bring to Su Qing, his attitude extremely humble. "Su Qing, I missed you. I brought you good things. Can you forgive me?" But Su Qing only glanced at him and said coldly, "I don't need them." Su Qing then moved her body to the side, allowing Lai Yang to see the rare treasures piled up in the house. Lai Yang looked at those things and then at what he held in his hand, feeling his gifts were inadequate. He then looked at Lan Zhan and Lan Ji beside Su Qing, both protecting her closely. Lai Yang felt suffocated, but he was unwilling to give up. He forcefully presented the items to Su Qing. Quote, Su Qing, just accept them as a gift from a father to his child. The moment Li Yang mentioned this, Lan Zhan landed a heavy punch on him. Lai Yang was sent flying. The two fought again, but Lai Yang was no match for Lan Zhan. When the leopard tribe's old chief arrived with his tribesmen, he saw Lai Yang lying on the ground, covered in blood, and his heart ached. Lan Zhan, for the sake of an old man like me, please spare my unfilial son. Don't worry, I will keep a close eye on him this time and won't let him bother you again. Lan Zhan had vented his anger and now felt it was meaningless. He clapped his hands and stood up, staring coldly at Lai Yang. Don't ever think of using despicable means to get close to Su Qing again. You are not worthy. Lai Yang choked and spat out a mouthful of blood. His gaze fixed on Su Qing, and meeting her cold, clear eyes, he directly fell unconscious. The old chief quickly had the beastmen carry Lai Yang away. He swore he would never let Lai Yang act recklessly again. Lan Zhan had spared him once, but that didn't mean he would be spared every time. The old chief felt wretched. Why was his son so pig-headed? Returning to the tribe, he had the beastmen guard Li Yang, preventing him from leaving the leopard tribe or seeing Su Qing. Later, Lai Yang managed to escape after many hardships. He didn't dare go to the White Wolf tribe, so he waited deep in the green swamp forest. Finally, he saw Su Qing. Lai Yang rushed forward excitedly, hugging Su Qing tightly, tears streaming down his face. Su Qing, I disobeyed my father and escaped for you. You can't abandon me. Now, no other beastman will have me except you. Lai Yang spoke tearfully. Su Qing impatiently frowned and pushed Lai Yang away. It has nothing to do with me. You brought all this on yourself. Now, please leave, or don't blame me for being unkind. Lai Yang felt Su Qing's rejection. His heart was twisted in pain. He knew he was wrong, and he regretted transforming into Lan Zhan to deceive Su Qing. He was about to speak when the frantic cry of a savage beast sounded from the thicket of thorns. Lai Yang vigilantly scanned the surroundings. The sound of footsteps grew closer, and the air carried a sense of danger. Su Qing, don't be afraid, I'll protect you. Liang pulled Su Qing behind him, transforming into his beast form. His muscles tensed as he stared at the approaching savage beast in the woods. Suddenly, a fierce tiger appeared, heading straight for Su Qing and Liang. Lai Yang couldn't think of anything else. He charged forward to meet the attack. The savage beast was not an ordinary wild beast. Lai Yang was no match for the fierce tiger. Soon, Lai Yang was severely injured and fell to the ground. Su Qing frowned, regardless of Lai Yang's past transgressions. His identity as the next chief of the leopard tribe meant his death right in front of her could very likely trigger a war between the two tribes. Furthermore, with his death, she would be next. Su Qing quickly communicated with the system and used a lucky draw chance to upgrade her talent. Su Qing's abilities quickly upgraded. The fierce tiger gradually approached Su Qing. Lai Yang, ignoring his severe injuries, tried desperately to stop it again and again. Finally, the fierce tiger slapped him away. He spat out a mouthful of blood and couldn't move. He watched helplessly as the fierce tiger approached Su Qing, but then a miraculous scene unfolded. The tiger's restless breathing suddenly stopped about 2 steps away from Su Qing. It stood frozen, tilting its head to look at Su Qing.